What's that?
I did see a little bit about mine. That's good. Well, yeah.
There we go. All right. Okay, well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. We actually have a full agenda. We got a lot of stuff to actually take care of. So, Paul, if you can actually go ahead and show us at 6:30, exactly at 6:30, we're going to go ahead and get started. Item number 2, we're going to go ahead and do roll call. So, we'll go ahead and do the roll call based on the different folks just to indicate this here.
So we're just going to call out your names, don't just say present when you hear, just what we do now. So Alderman Cortez, Alderman Morrow, Alderman Gonzalez, or Mayor Gonzalez, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Rodriguez,
Here.
Alderman Kate, Alderman Emery is absent.
Absent. So appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so the next thing that we actually have is we'll go ahead and, if everybody can please rise, we'll do the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Once again, thank you for joining us. Those of you that have been coming here a few times and stuff, you'll notice a few things that are a little bit different, just the logistical stuff. We appreciate the opportunity, getting some help and getting things lined up. So thank you to our city administrator and our attorneys and to Paula helping us out. Okay. First thing we're going to go ahead and jump into is a section of citizens to be heard. This is an opportunity for those that are not on the agenda that would like to present or talk about some information. You're welcome to go ahead and do that. We've got 3 minutes to go ahead and talk and present any information or discussion you might have.
We have some questions and then I have something to say.
Okay, no problem. First thing, just for the record, if you can please say your name and the address so we can go ahead and annotate it on the notes.
So Russell McDonald, Cameron McDonald, 19729.
I said, no.
Martin Street.
Shelley McMillan, 19709 Martin Street.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, I just have questions about the property behind us. We heard rumors there was a permit issue for a mobile home park, and I want to get specifics about that.
Okay. So what we actually have, and Matt, please help out if I miss out something. So in one of our last meetings, we actually discussed about some of the permitting that happened with a mobile home park in the back. They actually submitted. If I'm not mistaken, the council put a hold on those permits. So basically waiting for additional information to be gathered and plans to be reviewed, funneled through our actual engineers and going through the different portions of it. So right now, those permits are actually on hold right now for that to happen. All that will be evaluated once we get that to make sure that it matches up with the ordinance, everything that is supposed to be looked at as part of the normal process. So it still has to go through the normal process that needs to go. From what I understand from the last time, the area based on the zoning is supposed to be zoned correctly. That's part of the review that will actually happen. And the I remember what was the other discussion.
So on the fire marshal side, and then and Scott can answer, I think on TRC side, there were some just issues that weren't clear enough in what they brought before us, which was a fairly old document. So they were advised to submit all that back in formally for an official review from the city through TRC, and that has not been done yet. So there's nothing moving forward on that project.
Yeah. So it still needs to go through the the actual process within itself. And we'll take a look at all the zoning.
Is there a timeline on that, or is there?
Have
Do you have
you,
any idea?
We're still awaiting for them to submit something. I don't know what their time, they haven't said tomorrow, next week, 6 months from now, I don't know.
but you can voice any concerns, you know, we can't take any action, but any concerns that you actually have, this is the opportunity to go ahead and do that.
Okay, I was just trying to get some facts from it, but she's got it.
Okay, so I wrote some stuff down so I could make sure I tell you everything I was thinking. I was just here today, my name is Sarah McDonald. Lots of people know me because I'm a teacher at the school, but we're just here to voice our concern about the permit that was obtained by the Harris family for the trailer park. The land in question is right behind my home. I live at the end of Martin Street, which is not far from the police station. Rumors of the trailer park was told to us in May after the mayor election. In the past, the city of Lytle required you to get neighbors to agree to allow a person to move a trailer into the area. There are no trailers on our street, and we were not notified by anyone, including the city, that this may come about. To find out that they are planning to put in over 100 spots for single wide trailers is a shock to us. We work hard, and our home and our land is all that we have. It breaks my heart to think of a trailer park being put next door and what it will do to the value of our home. Not to mention the crime that is associated with the constant revolving door of people moving in and moving out. We will do this, what will this do to our town, my town? I grew up in Lytle and I moved back in 2004. I work and I live in this community. I know that the school is not ready for this amount of children that will be thrust upon us, and I don't think the infrastructure of Lytle can handle this. We ask that you, the city council, stop the permit that was issued earlier in the year. We ask that you think about our small town that is busting at the seams and make a decision that is best for the people of Lytle.
Appreciate the comments. And definitely, you know, that would be the things for consideration for the council. We still need to go ahead and go through the process, and within the process, make sure that everything is matched up correctly. And then anytime during that process, with the help of our attorneys, they will actually help us and guide us through that process.
Well, and hopefully that we'll be made aware of what's going on, because, you know, we didn't hear about this until this all of a sudden, you know,
Yes, ma'am.
already done.
It was brought up to our attention, and that's why it was put on the agenda, because just like our city administrator brought it up, nothing had actually been formally submitted through us to go ahead and do that, so that's the reason why we put it on.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
No, thank you, appreciate that. All right, anybody else? All right, well, thank you, appreciate that. Let's go ahead and jump right into the consent of the agenda. A, consider an approval for the minutes. I'd like to ask the council if I can have a motion for us to go ahead and table that. As a few of you are aware, we've actually had a turnover in City Hall, and we're still trying to put the puzzle together and take care of a few things. So can I have a motion for us to go ahead and table our approval of the minutes? Okay. Got a motion, Sam? Okay. Thank you, appreciate that. Okay. We got a second here. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you for that. Okay, the next one we have, consider the approval of the attorney fees.
So, we do have one from the law, Kate, we did not get one from the new firm, was not sent over, so.
It usually goes out on the 9th or 10th, so that's probably why it was included, so we can get that to you. It should
For the
be
next-
here.
Okay. So can I go ahead and get a motion to go ahead and table the one for the Davison, Rio, Ream, and Garza?
Just a motion to table the approval of the fees for Davidson Tree and Raven Garden.
Okay. Second? Second, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. All right, next one that we have is consider the approval of attorney fees, law office of Kate.
You should have copies up there that we received. It was submitted, there was a snafu on the email, that's why we didn't get it, so I was able to get a copy today. You should have it as part of your packet with those three things.
It's in the manila folder, exhibit 1, there's delinquent taxes to be paid as well as the regular bill.
motion, we pay the attorney fees for the office of county state.
Got a motion on the floor? Go ahead and do that. Got a second? Okay, discussion? Counselor, abstain? Appreciate that. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, and C, consider the approval of payment of bills.
We are, make a motion to approve the payment of bills.
Motion for us to go ahead and approve the payment of bills. Second. Got a second? Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you so much, appreciate that. All right, thank you. And we will come back to some of those in the next meeting to take care of. Okay, let's go ahead and move into item number 6, items to be considered. The first one that we have is A, consider and act upon the final plat for a Lido C store located at southeast corner Highway 35, Carnage Road at FM 3175.
So Mayor, if you don't mind listening, let's like a couple here. And there's representatives here if y'all got questions. So that was already presented to planning and zoning on June 6th, 2022. That is that new truck stop going in on the corner down there. TRC is looking at everything, they passed everything, they're in compliance for everything there. And the planning and zoning passed it, they recommended we pass it.
Who are our reps?
Thomas?
Oh, okay. How you doing, ma'am?
Good, how are you?
Good to see you again. Appreciate it. Hey, just for clarification in that corner, what was the final outcome in the sense of with the tech spot and the traffic in that area being the intersection?
So we did a traffic study and our traffic engineer, did not find that a traffic light was warranted. But through our discussions with TechStop, we no longer have a driveway on I-35 frontage road. All the traffic is coming down 3175. So that's 3 driveways. The northernmost driveway will be for passenger vehicles. And the other 2 driveways, we're gonna concentrate our heavy vehicle traffic. So one will be inner only and one will be extra only. And then they recommended, based on our traffic counts, that we install a right turn lane.
Oh, okay, so there'll be an right
Yeah,
lane
so
to go
they'll
in
be
there.
able to pull off and not be blocking traffic.
So you're saying directly coming from 35, there will not be an entrance? And these are 18 wheelers, right?
Yes.
They're not gonna have a problem with that?
No,
I mean, I know that exit or entrance with the Lido is for sure.
I know TechStop's planning some improvements for that intersection. We haven't seen the whole set of plans, but based on our understanding, that will help because it's pretty tight right turn.
It is.
But their improvements will help with that.
So coming out of the convenience store, is there gonna be a light for the trucks right there when they actually turn left to get on 3175 going towards the frontage road?
No,
So
it will not.
there's not?
There will not be no signal on.
Maybe hopefully in the future it might be, because I think that it's gonna be a traffic jam. All the people going off there.
Yeah. My concern is with the school, and we have a lot of traffic, parents that are actually bringing in the school buses that go right in through there. So the semi's pulling up and the roads are, you're gonna have right turn lanes, but is the road gonna have additional lanes or they just gonna keep it to 2 lanes?
Just 2 lanes.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting then pulling out at that point. So,
Yeah, my concern would be the exit. It would only take 3 trailers, semi-trailers to basically block up that whole exit.
Oh, coming off of
Yes,
35.
coming off of 35.
Yeah, I think it should go, it's further back. Further back south. Just come down exit road. You don't want to spend the money, I guess.
Did TxDOT say anything about moving that northbound exit south, quarter mile, half mile?
No, based on our driveway spacing, they were in agreement with.
And we're just gonna have to wait until there's a massive problem there.
And I don't know if TxDOT did their own traffic study, but this is just based on our traffic study and the TxDOT.
And I realize this is TxDOT, it's not pertaining to so it's just a concern.
I understand.
I mean, we're talking about 3 semi-trailers. To me, that's all it's going to take. And you have, traffic backing up.
How much time were you looking before? I know they started turning some part of the little restaurant that is up there. How much time do you see before the project is complete?
It's hard to say. I'd probably say 8 to 10 months. We're still have to go through for our building permits, so part of it will depend on that.
And one last question, just
No.
thinking out, because I had a conversation with a firm last week. Any discussions about adding, since it's gonna be a super convenience store, about adding electrical for electric vehicles? Anything that you guys are planning on that? It's part of the corridor, and we start seeing a lot more electrical vehicles around this area. Just wondering, I know that our C-store up here, I don't think they're gonna have anything, but that's one that is opening up here pretty soon, in a few months. Was there any discussions on doing anything like that in that?
I know early on, they always look at it, and part of it depends on CPS and if they're able to provide the power. Right now, we're not showing any electric chargers, but I can definitely ask them.
Please ask, and can you ask for something else too? Make sure that you guys have plenty of parking for the IHOP. You're gonna have a lot of people going to that IHOP, and there's gonna be a lot of folks trying to find places. Pay for the opportunity for folks to be able to do that, because it's very limited.
It would be about 2,800 square feet. So it's a smaller, on the smaller end.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I think, that's what usually happens in council. You can agree with me. Sometimes a lot of folks underestimate what you bring in to Vital and the success. I know as soon as that was revealed and highlighted and pointed out that the IHOP was going to happen, there was a lot of excitement. And it's not only here in Lytle, it's all the surrounding communities being able to do that. So please look at that.
Okay.
Please look at that and see, make sure that you have flexibility with traffic going into that area. I think you can get a lot of folks. Council, anything else?
Mayor, to Alderman Rodriguez's comment about the 3 trucks, I mean, how's that gonna impact 35? If they're backed up that quick, and you got traffic going northbound on 35.
That would be my concern as
Really
well.
big safety issue.
And what I've seen in the past, is that usually the 18-wheelers will go on the side road, what's the
Shoulder?
shoulder, thank you. They'll usually stack up on the shoulder. It sounds to me like TxDOT will look into it as soon as it becomes a problem.
So I can tell you, talking with TxDOT before, so they study all that. And I would assure you that if TxDOT could force them to make the improvements and pay for it, they would have, because otherwise it's gonna be on TxDOT's dime now. I'm sure TxDOT was hoping it was gonna trigger lights and moving the exit ramp and everything else, but
Charles, did you have something?
I was gonna say, but I forgot what I was gonna say. And I was just gonna make a motion that we go with the zoning commission's recommendation and approve the final plat for the C-store.
Do we have a motion?
I'll second
Okay. We beat you to it. Okay.
that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. Please just monitor and please work very closely with TechStop.
Yes,
Okay?
we definitely will.
It's very important we kind of monitor that area.
Okay.
I'll be good. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, ma'am. All right. B, consider and act upon the request of variances for Lytle Farms Master Development Plan for a total of 4 setback variances to the city Lytle Code of Ordinance, section 46-190 A, B, and D, and sections 46-221 C to allow for the proposed lot dimensions.
So this was again taken before planning and zoning, and their recommendation was ultimately to pass all of them and grant them all. I'll cover them briefly for each one of them. So the 46-190A is a front yard variance that would allow them to reduce the front yard from 30 feet to 25 feet. The second 46-190B is a side yard variance, and that's where they, on corner lots, they actually want to add an additional 9 feet. Our code says you can't have more than 6, they want to make it up to 15. So it's very odd that they add space there. 46-190D is a rear yard variance. They want to reduce it from 30 feet down to 15, so 15-foot reduction. Then if we go to 46-221C, that is for the R2s, that talks about the duplexes in the back, and they want to reduce the backyard 10 feet to match, from 25 foot to match the 15-foot backyard. They noted that this would be more in line with what Saddle Ridge was given in their variances. I checked our minutes from back then. They're not very clear on what was granted to them. It just says the variances were approved. I called Saddle Ridge and spoke to them, and their build lines do meet these, with the exception of the one addition of adding 9 feet to the side yards. But for the residential, their lot lines do allow for this, or build lines, so they were obviously granted that. That is not what they're doing, however, though. They're sticking to the 30-foot backyards and 25-foot, which makes a huge backyard, so it's 60 foot between houses. That is what they're doing today. They, by code, could build a bigger house if they chose to. And that's what this developer is wanting to do, the ability to build a bigger house on that same 6,000 square foot lot.
So for the council, one of the things that came up with that, if you remember, those of you that were here, one of the things that we were concerned is making sure that they had bigger yards. We were tailored it to the family. We granted the variances, and we actually provided, I know that was mentioned, in the sense of them being able to have the bigger yards to have the flexibility. And then the bigger houses, you know, what we were concerned with was them being too close to each other. We wanted to make sure that those 10 feet across are next to each other. And I don't think we have a problem with
This would still allow for that. They're not going any wider. They would just go deeper in their rear yard and a little forward in the front.
So that would be, come on up, sir. Come on up. Good to see you.
You too, Mayor. You were mid-sentence, so I don't want to.
No, we were just mentioning some of the things, you know, one of the highlights that we got from folks that were coming out here and just talking about what they really wanted was to be able to have those bigger yards. So it felt like it was more of a family dwelling versus, you know, being packed up next to each other. And I do remember another conversation that came up at that time. If we wanted to put bigger houses, you know, it's a 6,000 square foot, but that's the minimum. That doesn't mean that you can grow, you can make them bigger, right? And of course, there's a profit margin, things that you're trying to look at based on the properties. But I know that's what we talked about before. Are you envisioning the majority of the homes taking the majority of the backyards and all that? I mean,
It's a great question, Mayor, and kind of like you mentioned on Saddle Ridge, we're asking this for the overall development, which is 160 acres, I'll call it, and gives us the ability to go into those setbacks a little bit. Certainly don't have plans now, yes, we're still working with builders to maximize these variances that would be granted, but looking at it, one, there, and they have some very good reasons why, but you have some very, very large setbacks here. These lots, 6,000 square foot lot, 120 feet deep, the front and rear setback take up half of that, and take up more, but So it gives us the flexibility to have, in some situations, a little bigger house, a little smaller yard, and that seems to kind of come and go recently. I think everybody historically has loved big yards, and then, especially on days like today, would rather have more house than yard, and not be out there mowing it, so it really depends on the market, but I guess it's a very long-winded response to say it gives us flexibility to have kind of different yard sizes, different home sizes, knowing that the lot size requirement throughout the project is still, we're not asking to deviate from that. It will be at least that 6,000 square foot minimum.
All right with that. I know we had the discussion about being able to hear your neighbors too, having a little more distance, or the kids playing with ball in the back and it ends up always going into the neighbor's yard too. So food for thought, food for thought. The council?
And yeah, one quick additional comment on that is the front and the rear setback variance are, those are the ones we're really concerned about. We don't want to get closer necessarily on the sides. And in fact, as mentioned on the corner lots, we'd actually like the ability to pull away from the street a little bit more, just to kind of make those corner lots seem a little bit more bigger, more landscape.
How far are the houses gonna be utility?
They will be,
They'll be 10 feet apart, they have 5-foot setbacks on both sides. So it's what our current code allows.
That's what our current code.
or more. I guess that's the minimum setback.
Yes.
I move that we approve the requested variances.
Have a motion for us to go ahead and approve that? I'll second it. Okay, got a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you for being here.
You bet. Thank you for having me.
All right, C, consider an act upon the selection of engineering firm and entry negotiations for traffic impact analysis ordinance.
So our request for qualifications closed. We received 2 proposals, one from GKW Engineering and one from Kimley Horn Engineering. Both provided some references. I called on several. I called 3 on each one. I got, I think, 3 responses back for the GKW firm, and I got 1 back for Kimley Horn. I wasn't as concerned with Kimley Horn because we've done business with them before. I personally have dealt with them recently. So, talking on the GKW, the references I've got from 2 of the people that said that is a smaller firm. One specifically said that they're not the best with the traffic impact analysis ordinance. The other one that they listed as a reference said that he's never actually done any work directly with them, but that they've been subs on different projects that he's done before, but did say that they were great folks to work with and that we can't go wrong with them. The other one said that they had some hiccups along the way using this firm, but that they would recommend them, but that their recommendation would be kind of neutral, not on the low end, not on the high end. Regards to Kimley Horn, again, my personal dealings with them is they were very responsive. I actually emailed one of the people on the side project we're doing for some clarification. They were actually off that day and emailed me back almost immediately, sent me all the documentation that I was looking for. They actually had it early. So they're very responsive, at least that's what I've got with on them. And then the reference that called me back, they said that they were a great firm for this much larger city that this person worked for. Said they've always been top notch on all the items and very responsive on any project that they've worked with Kimley Horn on. They actually said that their rates were very reasonable, and typically they exhaust most of their money for engineering firms to single form because they're typically, far better priced than all the other engineering firms that they deal with, and that the work coming out of them is far better than what the other firms. The other two people that I called in did not call me back or email me back. So, and from what I gather, and I found this out, for the city, we have to select a firm based off of qualifications, and then we can enter into negotiations on the price for the project.
So who would your recommendation be?
My recommendation would be Kimley Horn.
And these are work in progress, right? So any questions that come up or anything the city wants to know more about?
You mean to create the ordinance for us?
Well, to do the, what do you call it, investigations?
Yeah, it would still be a work, yeah. We would select the firm, then we would meet with them and have the discussion on what we're looking for.
So the background for the council, this is an opportunity for us to include something in our ordinances that requires when we have a business or some sort of organization that comes into the city limits, if it's gonna develop to where we have a lot of traffic flow, different types of vehicles, that we address the different things that need to be addressed in order for us to be able to approve it or to take into consideration. It'd be something that is created, our engineer would actually look at it, use it as a method. You know, some of our roads are, I know we've had the discussion, some of our roads are governed by TxDOT, but some of those roads are in conjunction with the city too. So that's what the ordinance would actually be able to help us out to make sure that those additional studies, those additional looks are actually taken into consideration to do that.
So if we would have had this in place, Michael, before the HEB came out here, we could have been able to assess it and make HEB addressable for a lot of Somerset that came from. That's for these subdivisions as well. Something we should probably had 20 years ago.
It's more internal for us to try to do that. So, is that correct, Matt?
Yes, and tonight is just a selection of a firm, and then we would go to the next step of meeting with them to create the actual ordinance and talk about those meetings.
And then they'll come back to us to go ahead and review the ordinance and see what we can.
Mayor, I move that we select Kimley Horn to conduct a traffic impact analysis and enter into negotiations with them on price.
I'll second it.
Second. Any further discussions on that? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Okay, be considered act upon the Rosewood Estates subdivision, Unit 1, partial release of water and sanitary sewer utilities.
So I'll start on this, if y'all don't mind, and then I've got Scott here from TRC, so in case y'all got questions, and then representatives with the engineering firm. What they're looking at is being able to install the water and sewer utilities. They've reached a point where they've been ready to do that with everyone there, but there have been some holdups with emails taking too long and waiting for stuff. Initially, TRC didn't have a chance to review the entire project, but since we closed the agenda, Scott was able to give me this. They've actually reviewed everything. They are 100% in conformance with all of our ordinances. The only thing they're waiting on to give us the 100% stamp of approval is TxDOT stamp of approval. But that is only on the stormwater runnage, it would not affect anything inside this subdivision, but we don't have that 100% yet. So before we could do that, it would allow them, at least if the council says yes to this, it would allow them to start that pending TxDOT stamping this approved, which could take a month or two. I mean, we don't break TxDOT's mercy there. And of course, like Scott was telling you, this would be at their risk. If something changed where TxDOT, and it changed anything here, they may have to rip all this stuff up out of the ground. They understand that. And it would not bypass any inspections or anything by our people. Our people would still be out there inspecting every bit of the way.
So how do we cover that? And just, is it written somewhere that in case TxDOT comes back and changes anything, is it signed? I mean,
Come on, sir, I'm sorry.
John Adame, PDOS engineer, so I'm the senior vice president on this particular project. Exactly like what Matt is describing. So what we've got is we've got our subdivision that's 100% approved, 100% reviewed by your city engineer. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep it basic. I'm gonna say everything internal to my property lines has been reviewed, approved, and has your stamp of approval on it already. What we're working with is the access on 2790, the two roads that stub out to it. Right now, we're going back and forth with TxDOT on that. And what we're doing with them is we're doing lane widenings on the road to handle the traffic that's coming in and out. We're also working with them on drainage, adding some drainage structures to the current roadway right now. And that's what we're doing right now. Lytle Farms, I know they've got their engineer here, not for a long time, but we're working also with Lytle Farms across the street to basically work an arrangement out with lane configurations, lane widening, all the improvements they need to do for their project, so that right now, if everything goes as planned, they'll get their plans in for 2790, they'll get them reviewed, get them approved. My contractor that's working right now will do that work and get it all done at one time so we don't disrupt traffic more than one time. That's right now the game plan that we're doing for the 2790 improvements. So again, from a standpoint internal to our project, everything's reviewed and approved. TxDOT doesn't review that, by the way, that's purely you all. But the TxDOT, we're going back and forth on what's best, how we want to do things, and how we're working with the adjacent developer. Initially, we didn't know their timing, didn't know how fast they were going to come in. I know them, I know their engineer, I know their representatives, so we're trying to work best for what we need to do. So what's unique about this is, once again, I don't have that 100%, which would be the TxDOT approval. We're willing to take the risk to go ahead and continue on with construction, install sewer pipe, install water pipe, install storm drain pipe, and, obviously get to the streets is the last thing we do, with the condition that it's obviously being done at our risk. And really, from a standpoint on the city side, you don't have any risk. We're doing it at our own risk. You're out there inspecting it, observing it, doing the standard protocol. But at the end of the day, if I can't get access to 2790, I can't go anywhere. And so we're, taking the risk by doing what we're doing. But we have confidence, we know what we're doing, we know, what to expect from TxDOT. And that's what we're working on right now. So it's just unique.
Yes, I totally understand, and this is for our attorneys, and it's more of, do we need to document that risk in there? Who would be responsible for it in case something did, TxDOT came back and said something, or something went the other ways? Does it need to be included somewhere?
Right, you can approve it subject to TxDOT approval, and that way it puts it back on their timeline. I mean, that's what they're doing, they're waiting on TxDOT.
Right, and that's what the current, you don't mind me handing this to, that's what the current approval letter states, is that it's, everything is approved with the exception of TxDOT. Yeah, I'll say I'm from San Antonio. In San Antonio, we call it a courtesy inspection, is what we call it. And it's, over there, you basically, you get your plans reviewed, get them approved as fast as you can. But the end goal is to have your subdivision plat fully approved before you start construction. 90%, if not 95% of people, they can't wait that long. So we do what's called, as soon as the plans are reviewed and approved, we request a courtesy inspection, is what it's called. Some people call it early start, but courtesy inspection is typically the terminology used for it. And then we proceed to trial rights. So, and, again, I just wanted to make sure that we were all clear that I know it states release of water and sewer utilities, but it's for everything. It's sewer, water, storm drain, and streets. As far as when we expect tech stop, I'd like to say I have a magic ball and I could predict that tomorrow morning. And I wouldn't be here if I had that ball. But I would expect, from a tech stop standpoint, we already have sewer approved through them because we tie in a tech stop right away. We already have water approved by them because we crossed the 2790 to tie into the water line. So we've got the utilities approved through them already. And like I said, it's just in theory, code, streets, and drainage. That's what we're doing.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thanks, Mike. Council?
And our city engineer's here, if there's any questions for him, I wait on him, and he says, he doesn't foresee, and Scott checking, doesn't foresee any issues with anything TxDOT would do. If TxDOT refused, they wouldn't change anything within their project.
So where is this proposed driveway culvert drain located?
Well, I mean, as far as land plan wise, the master development plan that was submitted had 2 entry roads. Best way to describe it is, I don't know, do you have it on that? And I say what we own is what's in the shaded area. And so, the 2 drives that we're talking about, they're really roads, but they refer to them as drives, is each of our entry systems.
And that's going back to 2790, and then where is it going, underneath 2790, or is it going down?
Well, one drainage actually goes across the road and into Lytle Farms, which, again, we've worked with Lytle Farms on it. That's the only drainage. There's 3 pipes right there right now, and they want to put a 4th one in to convey the water. And then the lane improvements would be, I'm sorry if I can't see that, but the lane improvements basically are across the frontage of our property.
What's TxDOT said about improvements to 2790? Because, I mean, I foresee, so you get 1,200 homes out there, there's gonna be quite a bit of traffic.
We've got on 2790, so similar to the young lady that was up here, we do a traffic study, or let me rephrase that. A traffic study was done for this project when the first MVP was submitted by the first developer. Okay, we've taken that study as well and looked at it, and the warrants that are in there are like left turn lanes, right turn decel lanes. So it requires 2790 to be expanded. So that's what we've done with, quote, our construction plans. Now I'm working with the Lytle Farms guys across the street because I wasn't going to do their improvements for them. And so, in working with them, they need to expand it 12 more feet in addition to the 12 that I did on the other side. So we're working together to get all that done at one time. And so that's where, like I said, the drainage expansions, the lane expansion. So
What about traffic signal? Is that not gonna get the TxDOT, or put them on it once everybody gets moved out?
So from a traffic signal, as the lady was saying earlier, there's something referred to as a warrant study. And this number of homes coming in doesn't warrant a traffic signal. Typically what you end up with, some of the typical improvements are either a right turn lane, left turn lane, kind of referred to it as a suicide lane at times, the left turn lanes. Another term they'll use is like the right turn acceleration lanes if you need to get up to speed quickly. Those are a lot of the typical improvements that are going to come in with the residential project. If you had something really big, let's put it this way, I can tell you I've got 2 projects in San Antonio that have 2,000 units in one of them, and the other one's got I think about 2,500, and those warranted 1 traffic. So.
Just for clarification.
I'm not a traffic engineer either, I'm gonna tell you that right now, but it's a different breed too, by the way.
But just for clarification, I think what TxDOT is doing between the Lytle Farms and yours, they're matching the roads together, right?
Yes, we've got, their entrances are lined up with our entrances.
So that gives the flexibility that if they need to put lights, they already, is that correct?
That is correct. Typically, when you do development, especially with something like this, where, we're across the street, usually what happens, first one in kind of defines the alignments of those intersections. And then the second one, typically, you want to line it up to keep that symmetry at the intersection.
Anything else, folks?
He was saying about the 6 months.
Leave it open for the risk assessment. Two, any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right, here we go. Thanks, man, for that. Okay, E, consider an act upon proposals from TRC for the plant review and engineering services for 83506.
So this is the one, council, where we allowed the, people to start ahead of time, and we knew they were going to do this. Proposal from TRC to review everything is $3,400. That's something that the council would approve, pay TRC, and then before we release the final plat, that's paid back to the city. So it's just a lot. Yes. And Mr. Collins is here. I've already spoken to him about the price, and he's aware of it.
Okay, got a motion from Joseph. Let's go ahead and move forward on that. I'll second that. Okay, got a second?
And the left facing 3,400 is part of the portion.
Any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There you go, Mr. Thomas. Appreciate that. All right. F, consider an act upon the drainage issue in Lakeshore Estates.
Okay, this is, back there where phase 1 and phase 2 meet, where, the water. BMA, thank you, remember that, BMA, where they agreed to lower the pipe right there in case we wanted to put it in a spillway. We got with 2 different ultimately 3 contractors. The first contractor, we asked about doing a concrete spillway and everything associated with it, knowing that that 50,000 mark is where we have to seek an engineering firm to start the project. And this gentleman, just to do the concrete work alone, that's no dirt moving and none of the extra stuff he wants to do, was 57.5, and he said if we didn't do any beams, it'd reduce it down to 52.5. So he was way too high above that 50,000 mark, so we'd have to seek an engineering firm there. I reached out to a second gentleman I know that does concrete work. Him and his uncle ultimately came out and looked at the project, did some measurements, and stuff like that. They talked about doing concrete, if where the road itself actually has some concrete already in it, matching that concrete and coming over, I think it was 43 feet to a certain spot. But the spillway, instead of pouring all of that in concrete, because then concrete's really expensive. So TxDOT uses it's like a river rock that's covered in a wire mesh. They use it a lot on construction projects, and it's, if you see, we've had one up here by the McDonald and 35 access road when they did the projects for the access road a number of years ago. They still look as good as they do the day they were put in. So that's what he's recommending, is doing that as a spillway with that rock to kind of cut down some of the cost. And then it was a concrete form in the front too. So their bid though, if our public works guys did all the dirt work for them, came in at 48.5. If our public works cannot do the dirt work and this company has to shoot grades and elevations for the project and then do the dirt work, that would add an additional 10,200 to it. So that would put us over the 50 mark. So that would be a question to the public works director, Mr. McGrath.
That's not me.
And he ran
I
really
can't do
quick.
it, yeah.
But yep. Mr. McGrath mentioned that they could do the dirt work, but he said more of the rough dirt. I don't know what our guys are. James, on the dirt work out there, we're putting in that. This company said that if they had to shoot grades and elevations for the project and also do the dirt work, that add an additional 10,200. But if y'all can do all that, it would reduce that price just under that 50 mark to 48.5. Is that
We can do the dirt work. We can dig it.
without any grades or anything from them? I mean, y'all could work with them and figure out what we need.
If they give us the shots, we'll work.
Council, that's where we are on it. I mean, I'm trying to do something, like I told Mr. Trey, do more than nothing. I don't know. You know, we're trying to do something to help alleviate the issue. I don't do this for a living, but the people I've talked to that live out there and that do some of this work, they say this makes sense. So.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The bedrock or the river rock, there would be alternative. That's something that might decide. I guess I'm asking.
That is something that this contractor said they could use in lieu of pouring it all in concrete, because that's the cost of concrete, man hours, labor of forming, that's where it
So
drove the
without a
price.
better way of asking, we don't have to have the subdivision's approval to use either or.
No, not from my knowledge.
On the right of way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's ours, it's BMA's right of way, and it's something BMA's already told us to work with. It's actually BMA's property, they're gonna allow us to do this on their property. Of course, we'll have to get some kind of agreement more than just a thumbs up, go ahead, in my
And I have seen a lot of it.
BMA, approved the river.
BMA's said a lot of things, and this is one of the things that BMA actually brought up as well. Is doing this in lieu of concrete, because they know the costs are up too, so. I'm just trying to do something. I don't know if this is the right, I don't know. I'm not an engineer, I'm just,
But what are the dimensions on that they provided?
here, I'll let you look. There you go.
Is that where that dip is? Is that where they're trying to?
Yeah, when you go to phase two, there's that little concrete dip right there, so they're gonna, their opinion was you would match the concrete to that and run that up, I think it was 40, I believe, 43 feet up. That's what the people would see when they're driving by, to make that look nice and pretty. You wouldn't as much see, 50 foot off the road, this spillway of kind of rock.
And the people that live, that's it, 'cause I remember it was in Canal, they were against that.
They were against what?
Cleaning that.
Oh, cleaning the canal. So the other side, on the canal side where the water's gonna flow through, I've already talked to the HOA out there. Two ways we move on that. One is the city with the attorneys, we get some kind of legality that says they're gonna allow the city on their property to go clean that ditch out. James already said they can do it if we get the permission. We're not gonna do it unless we have permission, because property lines meet there in the middle. If they don't wanna give it, then the HOA said they will serve them with letters, because it's their responsibility to maintain it. So either way, I guess it's gonna get done. But yeah, I mean, in order to help the flow for them, again, I'm no engineer guy, but path of least resistance, if that's all jammed up with weeds and sticks and trees, we need to get it out of there, flow the water into the lakes and get the flow moving the way it should.
And I'm on the HOA board at Lake Shore, so it's been a conversation that we've been having. Option A is going to be, of course, option B to make them maintain the property like they should be.
Any questions? Like I said, I don't do this for a living, I'm just asking.
I got you. 40 feet. Okay, so the actual cut area, where it would actually be dropped and, is that 40 feet? Is that at the toe? or is that?
From my, we talked
I'm trying
about,
to understand, like, I know we.
I got you, like,
forms.
the guy who was gonna do this work, backed out last minute, says, I can't do it.
Gotcha.
But his uncle worked for this company, they shot me this morning. So it is, I told him we wanted a 35-foot spillway with, and we said, what, 5 foot on either side, kind of wings
Oh,
going up?
okay,
That make,
right.
I guess, does that make more
Yes,
sense?
yes, that does, okay, so then you have your 40 feet in your tow code, so that's great stuff, you have 35-foot span,
Yeah, of where the water can flow over when it gets to a certain point.
okay.
We've looked at some other things, so maybe the grates that are there, so they don't jam up, is going and cut out every other one, give a little more opening for the corn stalks or whatever, to maybe, I don't know if that's gonna count, I don't know.
It's, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's an option, when it's sitting there full as it is, you know, so it doesn't create any pressure, I mean, that's the whole problem.
So however council wants to move forward, I mean, if we do it all in concrete, we're gonna have to seek out the engineers, do a big study, and
So in regards to the study, is there, I mean, there should be a study that, as far as having greater expenditure in a study, the neighborhood itself was annexed with a drainage study having been done.
so, the gentleman that originally did the project reached out to me. And he said, now that I'm in the position I'm in, he's willing to work, not the developer, the gentleman initially. He said he's willing to work with us. Before, he didn't want to work with us because of people that were here that didn't get along with him, I guess. He says he's got the full set of plans on the drainage project that was supposed to be done out there and that was approved through our engineers. And he's willing to share those with us and let me have them. I don't know how true that is, but we can get those and then maybe ask TRC to review them and give us their opinion. That may fix a lot. If that was already there, it was not built to that. At least then we would know what it needs to be. If TRC says, yeah, hey, that looks good, that's what you should have done, or what should have been done, I think you could. That's what should have been done when the project was done initially. Maybe they look at it and say, this was totally wrong. It's horrible. I don't know. But it could fix the other project of mapping it already.
So my understanding is that 50,000 is the threshold for the competitive bid. Anything
Well-
over 20,000 still requires an engineer. We asked Molly about that, but that's what I'm looking at right now, that
That's what I thought it was.
it's
The 20, I thought we-
occupations code 1001.053.
20 or 50?
50.
50 is for the
I know the competitive bidding.
bidding,
But
but for the actual project itself, and I mean, look, we went in the first time and we did it wrong.
I agree.
mean, I'd say if we're gonna spend money on it, we do it right this time. Otherwise, we're gonna
I
be back here in 5 years and when Tracy's house is swimming pool. I don't think Tracy wants that.
Well, I mean, look,
can't
so
remember.
just to expand on that comment a little bit, let's keep in mind that it is, I mean, granted, my house seems to get the most attention. And there's been about this much water in my house one time, but over the course of a handful of, you know, over the course of, I don't even remember how many events, over the course of 12 years, there's been, I mean, water spilling over BMA, there's lots that could be easily identified as not livable lots because of what washes into the garages, it washes down fences, all that sort of thing. So, I mean, that, you know, it's not just me.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, it's a neighborhood thing, and this is not the only drainage issue out there either, because of cutting corners 20 years ago.
Well, it's gonna be even worse now that the inmate's filling in the canal.
Yeah.
All that held that was a lot of retention. Yeah, all that's gonna be on top of the
So
ground.
Chris, I got from experience, it's a yes and no, okay? Because one of the other challenges that we had in that neighborhood, and just for disclosure, I do live in that neighborhood, okay? So the other challenge is if they didn't close the gate when we had all that rain coming from the north, then their canal became a drainage ditch. And we would end up with all the water that was supposed to flow the other way would flow into the neighborhood. So if that's closed out, you're gonna have less water that normally would come in. So it should flow through the regular drainage instead of the canal. So in some ways, it's gonna be better. In some ways, it just depends on the runoff, you know, that we're actually getting from the different areas. But I think it's a better thing to just close that down and not have that water come into that neighborhood. I think that will help.
I mean, I think, you know, we're looking into the future, right? next 20 years, where a home's gonna be being built. We're over here, east 35, but I see north of here between Lytle and McCoss as prime area. So how is that gonna impact Lakeshore? You know, so if it was a comprehensive review, like, yeah, this is gonna fix one problem, there's probably 3 or 4 that we need to address. And we got some other, you know, drainage stuff pending, be tackling other projects around the city. And of course, I'm sure that Lakeshore is gonna be up on that list with some of those getting selected.
I would hope so.
Yeah, no, I mean, because,
So we keep hearing about the other projects and other challenges, and, you know, there's gonna be, you know, a overall, you know, take a look at all the drainage issues. And I heard somebody made some comment about there being a $2-3 million project and look at everything across the board. And the work that's being done right here by this man is the most been done in a while. We've been talking about it for a while. So
yeah,
something needs to get, we need to melt it.
I think that it's, the history of it goes back a long time. Right before you even, like I said, orders were cut, variances were granted, and those variances should not have been granted, because here we are tonight talking about it. So, with all that being said,
But if the number is 20, and I may have confused the number and stuck at the 50 in my head, I don't know. And if so, that's my, but if it's 20, we're held to that, because if we go above that, and again, like I mentioned, it'd be a class B misdemeanor to the council.
I mean, that's just a bunch of concrete for sure. I mean, I'm looking at this, concrete alone.
That's the.
Well, yeah, one of the pain points is now, I mean, like when I poured my driveway, I poured, you know, flat work with raised steel at $4 a foot.
Yeah.
And now it's eight and a half.
Yeah, now it's like $9.
Oh, yeah, I know, and that's where we're at. So that is the nature of the economy, and those are the prices we have, so.
And, you know, I look at that and I look at 3,000 PSI, you know, I poured a slab, I put 5,000 down, just because I'm over-engineering. But is this gonna do it? That's why we need to have an engineer, I think, look at it, make sure we get a quality product to address this issue. And
So council, I was just informed that it is 20, so that's my mistake. So my recommendation would be to not do anything on the project, because we can't legally without an engineer overseeing it. And then let me work with that gentleman who has these plans allegedly and get those to TRC.
Well, the way this is, word of them as is consider an act upon drainage issue in Lakeshore Estates. I mean, Molly, correct me if I'm wrong though, but we could move to go out for RFQs for engineers to work on this project, since it's gonna see, since you already got the process, and since we know where we're gonna be, why wait 2 more weeks on this?
Right, it's general enough to where you could take action to start something on this without it being accepting these bids.
Mayor, I move that we have the city administrator go out for requesting qualifications for engineering firms for the design and construction of the proposed drainage problem that's presented in Lakeshore.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries forward. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Appreciate it. All right.
All right. Yeah, and we do have some other areas too, so we'll be tackling, another streets and a few other things too, so we can go ahead and be inclusive on the Adams, Wall Street, some of the other areas to look at. Different discussion at a different point. Okay, G, consider an act upon allowing Lytle Post 12041 to sell beer at the 4th of July event. Our commander, there you go.
Thanks, sir.
Commander.
The Lytle VFW would like to sell beer at the 4th of July event this year. I know we've been approved for previous events, 9/11, and other activities that have been out of the park. And what we would request is a letter from the city granting that approval, and just previously done before.
Chris, how does the project or the process work for you to obtain that permit?
So we go through the Texas State ABC board to get a 3-day, it's called a 3-day permit, but we'll only be selling them on a 1 day.
Yeah, I noticed that it was the second to the fourth. So
Yeah,
that's just
it's
the permit.
that's just permit, or it's just a 3-day card.
Okay.
And that cost is absorbed by
By the VFW, no cost to the city. I know Chief, you had some,
Yeah, I've got some concerns only because unlike the festivals we've had in the park, the fireworks draws a much larger number of people. Inside the park, 1,500 people, where a regular festival might have 500. So obviously, while this is an opportunity for them, it becomes added risk for us. We need to mitigate that. I won't have staff to staff security for an event that's going to have alcohol sales at that number of people. So we can mitigate that by, I can hire 4 off-duty officers from other agencies. Probably working from 5 to 10 on 4th of July, probably cost me about $50 an hour for each guy. So probably cost about $1,000. I can mitigate that. And that way, because now, understand on 4th of July, I've got everybody working, but I've still got to have people live here still deserve, they're going to be calling in on fireworks. And now we have another subdivision that we're going to be patrolling, Saddle Ridge. First fireworks over there, I'm sure somebody over there is going to go set off some fireworks. So that's what we would need to mitigate that additional the alcohol stuff. I mean, to keep it, otherwise I could be looking at 1,500 people and having maybe 5 officers there, which is not, you know. For example, at the community center, if you had 100 people, we require another officer if there's alcohol. So we're not anywhere near that, but we've got to have enough where if we have a emergency in town, we're not completely left over there with just a couple people. That's my pretty much.
How did we do it, Richie, when we have the festivals to cover those costs?
Okay, in the festivals, we never had that many people to do it for fireworks. That's the issue. Fireworks is because fireworks is going to draw in counting people on the outside, and this is hard counts with, you know, using clickers and physical counting, 2,500, 3,000 people if you go outside the perimeter of the park. We've never had that many people at a festival. Gay Garcia we did, but that was a filming event. But this deal here is different, like a Frenchy Burke or a 9/11 festival. I mean, what, Matt, 300-400 people maybe? I mean, it's just not very many. It's a totally different ballgame. That's why I'm saying.
but didn't we go to the council meeting where we agreed to do fireworks this year? I thought it was already approved for additional security.
Well, I think that was when we were gonna do a festival, I
That was
thought.
4th of July with fireworks, because I remember the conversation that there's gonna be a lot of people because of fireworks.
We had
It's been a couple
something,
of
but we
years,
ended up not doing that.
but it was already been pre-approved.
You remember that?
Can I address, so council, here's what we're talking about doing for fireworks, is we added to the show some additional time. So we were looking at ways to fix that overage in the budget, and we chose to not do the hot dogs and sell drinks and allow food trucks to come in, and the cost for us to do the hot dogs, drinks gave us what we needed to cover the cost of the fireworks. If we do anything else, there's an added cost to that, we gotta figure out where at in the budget that's coming from.
I mean, it's a pushing deal. I mean, you know, we might have saved some money not doing hot dogs, but, you know, we certainly can't skimp on this public safety. Because, you know, that's just it. I mean, I've been working festivals at that park for 25 years.
And when we have a strip festival, we pay, strip pays,
Yeah, y'all have, and their festivals, they hire 10, 15, 12 officers to work them. So we just need something to help mitigate.
Yeah, I thought that was already approved on.
You know, and that's, you know, we have money, we've got overtime money in the budget, in our own budget, that we could come up with $1,000 for. That's not the issue. I mean, all the money to me, to be honest with you, I mean, I live here, I pay taxes. It's all, 90% of the money all comes from the same pot anyway. We just divide it out. So if we need to use it out of the police department's salary budget, that's fine with me as well. It's not about trying to, it's just a matter of making sure, I mean, safety's gotta be, you know, I don't want to been up on CNN Monday morning, you know, Tuesday morning when they're asking me, how in the world you had 2,500 people and you thought you could do it with 6 policemen, you know? So that's my take on it.
to the VFW be willing to contribute some money to the pot?
We could probably say $1,000.
Yeah, I mean, how much of the thing is, I just don't want, I mean, I don't want them to, us to go through the whole process and that doesn't benefit them at all. I mean, we have the money,
Y'all gonna make money.
we have the money in the budget.
City, for some of the costs at least, you know.
What are the food trucks doing?
What do you mean, as
Food
far as?
trucks, they offsetting the cost?
They're offsetting the cost of the live music.
The live music.
The Chamber of Commerce is gonna cover the cost of the 2 live performers that are playing that night. And the donations that the food trucks are giving to the chamber for setting up is gonna help offset that cost.
And, you know, it may be, Fourth of July, it may be so hot, and, you know, a lot of people barbecue on Fourth of July. They're not gonna show up at 5 o'clock over and maybe go to a food truck. They're usually getting free hot dogs, not $10 hamburger. So we don't know what's gonna happen over there. And that's why the food trucks, we can, you know, it's not, it doesn't affect us much. But if you start selling beer at 5 o'clock, and we get it, let's say the weather turns nice, and we get 700-800 people in the park buying beer, you know, I mean, it could create some issues that, you know, we need to be able to mitigate. And again, like I said, we've probably got the money in the budget. It's not the money you know, I mean, you know, we're gonna do it, there's cost to doing these events. I mean, and I still think that's probably, if you probably hired a consultant to tell you, he probably would tell you we still don't have near enough people. But I mean, I think we can do it because the officers I've got have the knowledge of the people in the area, and they're not, you know, but that's just my,
Yeah, and y'all have already got all of this through your TML insurance and it's all approved.
What do you mean, TML? I mean, we don't submit anything to TML, it's just an event the city does, they cover our providers.
But if you're gonna add the addition of alcohol sales, you would wanna check with TML, see if that is any type of issue. And then I'm assuming VFW has insurance.
I have to double check. Currently don't have for selling liquor because you don't have an actual post.
Right.
So.
you're talking about the blanket liability policy.
there's a liability policy. Almost possible.
Yeah, I think you're right. Richie, I think that's something that they would, I don't know.
It seems like y'all would have one just if you had.
Yeah, I think they used to pay for the one event, and they put the liability, you know, went along with that.
It wouldn't be very expensive for just a general liability.
How long does it take for you to get your license?
I do the paperwork tomorrow, it takes a week to 10 days.
So if we were to hold this off until the 27th to make a decision, I mean, we're cutting it short.
Cut it short because we got to coordinate with
Right.
vendors and.
But it seems to me that if we approve it, we're gonna have to do additional officers, period.
And again, we have money in our budget for Matt coming over to work for the city. We've got money in there that, you know, it would just be, instead of going for salaries for us, we'd go for contract for, you know, 4 guys. So it's not the money I'm as concerned about. I mean, I'm willing to give the money out of my budget per se. It's just the fact of having a little bit of extra, you know, because we've never done this before. Festivals, I've done that, but fireworks draws a much larger crowd. We haven't had one in 2 years. I'm expecting a huge turnout. Or I'm hoping it rains and there's 2 inches of water in the park. Those are my two, you know, my two hopes and prayers. So.
I don't drink, so answer this question for me, please. If I go to see the fireworks and I'm parking out there by the railroad, this general area, can I have an ice chest in my vehicle?
Yes. So basically, even people could bring ice chest into the park. That's another issue.
Alcohol?
Yes, as long as they're not in glass containers. So that's another issue. They might be selling beer, but we can't prevent people, I mean, not without a lot more than 4 additional officers, from bringing alcohol into the park. So, you know, that's a, you know, that is a good, I do not drink either, sir, so I'll be honest, a lot of this, I just have to come from being a police officer, you know, I'm seeing it. So, now having years past and other business sold beer, sometimes even after hours, but I was much younger and the statute of limitations expired. Okay, so anyway, yes, that would be another issue, that would y'all be willing to set up knowing that, you know, all these people are going to be bringing in beer?
Yeah, we've done it on other events.
Sure.
Council?
So I'd like to ask Mr. Deere, I like the idea. I would like to make a motion to approve it, but what do we need?
Can we-
Do we need to add anything to that?
Can we approve it contingent? TML is okay with it. I can check with TML. And we need the word that we're gonna remove, you know, 1,000 out of the salaries of the police department, put into contractual, for the engine, for the auditor, to contractor pay to cover anybody we have to hire as contract labor. That would need to be, I guess, the motion.
Well, you could do the budget amendment later but you could do it with the understanding that that's going to be it. And also I would recommend that UNW provide proof of liability insurance.
You would need to talk to Claire Sanders.
Yeah, I'll call that. I'm almost positive.
I think Rich is correct. They used to get, there was a policy just for that one event.
Only because fireworks plus beer, just make sure TMO knows.
And that's kind of what that's a new scenario for us, and that's why we've got to be a little more cautious, because I don't have experience to go.
So you making that motion?
Yes, so I make the motion to approve or allow Lytle VFW Post 12041 the sale of alcohol, and to also look into TML liability issue.
And it's contingent that TML is going to cover us. I mean, that there is an understanding of the budget.
Along with the VFW.
And then also security.
Yeah, and I think we'll handle that, like I said, we can just do that on a budget.
Funding. Okay.
Already get on that?
We'll work it out.
Okay. Got a motion on the floor? Got a second on the floor? Any further discussion?
Is there gonna be veterans discounts on these beers?
For your new post.
I mean, I'm a lifetime member, Chris, come on. I just don't go to the meetings.
Trying to raise money for new buildings.
Give it free food.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Marvin.
No other further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you so much. About 2 minutes out for a break. Let's go ahead and go into H, consider and act upon delinquent tax collection services with the law office of Tom Kate until a review of the tax system can be conducted.
So council, I asked that this be put on there. Over the last 2 weeks, we have discovered several issues with the delinquent tax accounts in our software. Our software is not 100% up to date. All this is RN as a city. It's not up to date with what it should reflect, because we weren't doing updates like we should. And that has come from every tax assessor from each county. I've got multiple files from them that we can spot check, and then we're gonna have to work on getting it all updated. We have, I'm trying to word this correctly, we have just found situations where we were sending notices to people saying that they were delinquent on taxes through our law firm. Rightfully so to them. It was 100% what we gave them, or what they got from our system, but the people weren't actually delinquent. There was issues on our end that we didn't notate accounts correctly, or we didn't do what we needed to internally. So it'd be my suggestion, or my recommendation, that we stop all delinquent tax collection services until we can do a review of our software to ensure the notices that are getting sent out are 100% accurate, and that those people are truly delinquent on their property taxes. Because we have found several that aren't.
So I have a question. Are we contractually obligated to the law office of Tom Kate once we do continue with these?
We're under, and I'd have to look at the contract, but yes, we went here into I believe it's a yearly contract with them for delinquent. This would,
We have a 1 year until January 2023 with Mr. Kate.
so this would basically just say, hey, kind of time out, and we could send them a letter to stop all delinquent tax collection services for the city, because we need to review our documentation that we're sending to them.
That won't affect us having to pay the penalty. If you send me that letter and I'm delinquent right now, am I gonna have to pay, you're gonna wait 10, 20%?
So that, and I think, do we have that? I thought we had that in there, I'm sorry.
We don't have that part in that.
Well, it's a
something.
general item for them to set.
Oh, that's right, that's what you're saying, yeah. So y'all set parameters on that, and of course, that would be my recommendation. If we find it, my recommendation is if we do the research and we find that it was an issue on our end, that the council give us the authority to waive those fees and collect what should have been paid to us if due diligence was done on our end. And that if people, we may find people that overpaid, we owe refunds to. I don't know. How long this is gonna take? I don't know. It's gonna take some time because it's just gonna take some time.
Maybe it'll look into it, so. Okay, council? Heard, the challenges that we have and the things that we need to do, so.
I move that we take Mr. Hughes' recommendation. Making sure our ducks are in a row.
Do you want to do anything with the amendments you mentioned for the delinquent portion of it?
And then would be allowed to waive the fees or stuff like that every time.
Entire recommendation.
Okay. Two parts on it. Got a motion on the floor for us to do that?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Got a second on that? Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
I abstain, Mayor.
Thank you so much, appreciate that. Okay, I consider an act upon job descriptions for city administrator, city secretary, and finance director.
So this is something, Councilman Emery was working on. They have been sent, to everybody, including our attorneys, and this is the final drafts that we've come up, that has been come up with everything incorporated that y'all all talked about, and it's legal, so this would be the last step to either finalize or, I guess, make additional changes if need be.
Molly, anything of these?
No, our employment attorney, reviewed them and didn't have any, changes to them. The only recommendation sometimes is, not necessarily, if the job doesn't require someone to have a driver's license, don't put that as a requirement. That can sometimes be viewed as a reason. Obviously, someone could perform the job of city secretary without a driver's license, city finance without a driver's license. So sometimes that can be viewed negatively if there's some sort of ADA accommodation issue that comes up with this type of job description. If you feel that that person should have a driver's license and it should be a requirement of these positions, then certainly include it, but sometimes positions don't always require that, and so it's not necessarily needed. That was the only catch, was that is a new thing as far as ADA accommodations, that you have to look at all the things that people could do with or without what you're requiring, and do they absolutely need it for these three positions, and the answer may be no, so maybe remove that. That was his only recommendation.
So Matt and Lynette?
Could we just word it to say a Texas driver's license and or
Is preferred,
Texas is preferred, or?
but not required.
Just because Molly, you have to do the deposits and stuff.
See, then if,
That
you
would-
know, if that's the case, then those positions, you can justify it, then keep it on there.
And I could see with Matt, because I know he's been going a lot more on site with projects.
Well, I mean, all three of us are out to dry. I mean, I'm looking at sites in between finance and Paul. I mean, they're
All the
to and from the bank all the time.
On the bank.
And
So I think all three
definitely,
of
it
these are
sounds like
required.
they have to be mobile, and so you could justify it, that's perfectly fine.
Council?
Move that we adopt the job description as presented.
Okay. Motion on the floor for us to go ahead and adopt the job descriptions as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like for time to review this, we just got these today, as final ones, so. I think that's the first one, I mean, I still feel like the city administrator, they need to have the ability to hire and fire anybody that's not department heads.
So these are the, I'll just say, these are the working drafts that have been discussed in council, and I've heard that's one of my mission statement before. But this has been discussed through council, and this was the final
And I think,
drafts that were submitted.
Alderman Emery had mentioned it before, 4-month mark later on, have some of these discussions at a later time to try to decide.
My second question would be, what are we doing about amending our ordinances regarding powers and responsibilities of mainly the city secretary?
So that would be I would assume the next step. Now that we've gotten clear definitions of job descriptions, then we amend the city ordinance, but we couldn't amend the ordinance until we knew what the job descriptions were. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Holly, that's.
No, that would be the next step.
Is that agenda item separate, or is that part of the motion that should be included?
No, these would just be the job descriptions. The ordinances would be brought back
So we
separately.
need to put it down on the agenda for next time, if the council approves. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay, like I said, I'd like more time to review.
Okay, motion passes. Now for us to go ahead and adopt these job descriptions. You gotta do that. Matt, if you can please work with Molly and we can go and work on the next agenda item. Go ahead and take care of that. Okay, 4 minutes. Let's see, you think we can knock the next one? Oh, hold on, let me take a look. Do we have anybody here for the, consider an act upon the request of a streetlight installation, 15-5-16 Main Street?
No, sir. They're not here.
I just remember on the agenda item, there was a Mrs. Martinez?
Yeah, but
She's not here.
she just wanted to request it.
Okay, so we go ahead and take care of the next one, council? You guys are okay if we do one more before the break? Okay. So J, consider an act upon an ordinance for Saddle Ridge Estates Phase 1 and 6 establishing enforcement of stop signs, setting speed limit, accepting street names, and adding streets to the city map.
So this is, it was drafted by our attorneys. This came from the police department. I was just kind of the middleman. But it is the official ordinance that would adopt the streets and locations of all the stop signs, as well as a speed limit for the subdivision of 25 miles an hour, thus making them enforceable by our police department.
Anything in clarification, anything that we need to?
Now, you should have the ordinance, and Exhibit A, which is all of the street locations, stop sign locations. It was my understanding that the city has already accepted the roads and released the performance bond, and only has the maintenance bond in place for the period of time until the roads are.
So in talking with, and Scott, Carlos with Pave Dawson, he said the process is once the project is done, our engineer has signed off on it, all of our people, and this has already happened in phase 6, it's the one I was involved in, have gone out, done their review and stamped approval. Everything is done, it's completed, and we're all happy with it. That the performance bond then goes away. It's just an automatic thing, and that's where the city accepts everything. And we've done that. That was a form that's already come in and been formally.
So the maintenance bond is that?
The maintenance bond is still for a year on each one of these from the date that these letters are signed. I just completed phase 6. It was my understanding Ms. Compa's already done phase 1. So. Performance bonds only cover if they start construction and don't do something right, or they bail out halfway through. It doesn't leave us holding that ticket to finish. We can call in that performance bond, and then if the project is finished. The maintenance bond is the project is done, we sign off accepting it a year from that date, and both of these years till 2020. If something goes wrong, the street's bad, creates a pothole, as simple as the little blue reflectors they put in the road to mark the fire hydrants, which they've got addressed in phase 1, comes off the road, that's where the maintenance bond covers that.
I think we had, go ahead.
So has council already approved, has Public Works inspected, performance bond has been released, council has accepted the streets at the recommendation of?
So I know
Phase
phase 1.
6, well, phase 6 has been done, I know that, that's the one I was involved in.
So phase 1 was done already. I know we released, so yes. So the answer to your question, is that correct, Scott?
Yes, we conducted our final site visit a few weeks back. Everything was constructed in general conformance of the construction plans that were reviewed and also the city code. So we have no reason to make a mistake.
And our
We're good?
Yes.
Public Works was there, our private inspector Reese was there. Everyone's looked everything over, everyone that can stamp it, as it's good to go, is stamped, it's good to go.
Molly, if I remember correctly, that was one of the things that Jesse said, was just that we took care of the actual performance bonds, is that correct?
Right, that it had been inspected, the city had accepted the roads, or the streets, rather. And now we're in the maintenance bond phase, where they have a certain period of time, either 1 year or 2 years, where they maintain the maintenance bond to come back and redo any of the issues that may come up with the streets before the city is actually on the hook to maintain those streets. The maintenance bond covers all that. The developer has to come back and fix them for a certain period of time. So we need to make sure that the phase 1 and phase 6, that we're at that spot before we're adopting the streets. So this ordinance would be adopting the streets in phase 1 and phase 6 as part of the city streets, as adding to the city map. That's what this ordinance would be doing. And then also setting the stop signs, the street sign, the street names. I know that you had mentioned checking with Atascosa Rural 911 on the street names.
Yeah,
make
that's
sure there's
part
no
of, that's
conflict.
part of their process when they select street names, that was middle.
And has that all been,
That's all done by the developer.
and there's no
It's all been done.
conflict at this
We've
point?
received no word of conflicts or anything.
So council, the stem out of this is basically us being able to enforce.
So basically, so what happens is, we've got people living out there now. And, there's a lot of construction going on, and there's gonna be, it's not anywhere near the end. So people are kind of starting to complain about speeders, and they're complaining about stop signs, and if somebody, it's gonna be an issue. So that's, the developer reached out to me recently, and because he was getting some feedback. So I went back to the mayor and said, hey, and Matt said, hey, figure out, if what we can do, if we can do it. I mean, I don't, that's what got us in this direction, is that it's like a stop sign at HEB without us putting it in the, it's really just a, what do you call it, a suggestion, it's not really.
Jesse's background is in real estate, right?
That's correct. He does our real estate development, subdivision, regulation, zoning, and planning. I do have it in this ordinance for the streets to be adopted by the city. So that would be something that we could, I could reword it to say acceptance and adoption of the streets. I thought that council had already accepted the streets and directed the performance bond to be released.
On those two, the performance bonds have been released, on those two phases.
But from talking to our other attorney, that was the question, was that the city council has to actually accept the streets.
Right.
And that's what I, like I say, that's all new to me, I don't So that's the question we come up with. Whatever we need to do to get the point where if we can lawfully make it safer for those people out there, that's, only thing. I'm my horse in the race.
Right,
Sorry.
the city has to accept them, adopt them, the street names, add them to the city map, and this ordinance does that. Plus it allows you to set the speed limits, set the street signs, the stop signs, and so forth. And then it has an enforcement provision where you can start enforcing the stop signs and the speed limits out there.
So where can we fix on this where we can accept them and do everything in one step for both phases?
Right, so
So there we go.
you would approve the ordinance subject to amendment to show adoption of the streets, which I have it in there that they're being accepted. I want to make sure I take the wording from your subdivision.
Do we have a maintenance bond for the streets?
And we do have the maintenance bond, right? It's already.
Yeah, both developers said they're making money. This is all stuff that started prior to me, where those records are here. I don't know, but I'll get copies of them.
You can ask them to resend
Yeah,
it. They should be able to
Yeah,
send
they'll
it. It's usually a shared bond.
It's not police, if anything, but that was a conversation that we had, is basically for council's understanding is that when we do the performance bonds, when we release those, that at that point, we can actually adopt the ordinance, because we're gonna have other phases in the future, and it's supposed to be able to help. It's gonna happen in that period. That does not take away or substitute anything with the maintenance bonds. Those are the ones that actually renew for a year.
I said, this is something we've asked before. I guess this was brought up before, and it was, the direction was at times kind of as clear as mud, so.
Molly, we
One
appreciate
stop
your
shop.
help. We appreciate yours and Jesse's help with that. I'll figure that out.
Well, we just wanted to make sure that this is only as to unit 1 and phase 1 and 6. Each one will have to come back and be approved under a separate ordinance or amendment to this same ordinance. You can amend it and add on different phases, but at this point, it's just the ones that are completed and that are in the attached exhibit A as incorporated into the ordinance.
All right. Council?
Mayor, this was the list of 16 street names that were submitted and council approved, right?
No, you're thinking of a different subdivision.
Yeah.
These were done years, probably a year ago. These are
Everything's
different.
from Vital Farm.
Yes. Okay. Yes, sir.
So
We've got too many moving at the same time, so.
And I think they have.
And you can read them out if you have that.
Do y'all want me to read them out to you? I mean, they've got them all, but I can.
If you want to read them out for purposes of the ordinance, you can do so.
So, oh Lord, I'll try to read.
Just right there.
So the permits, the one stop sign is located at Saddle Ridge Boulevard and Dock Holiday Boulevard, or Drive. Second one is Sundance Pass at Dock Holiday Drive. Third is Sundance Pass at Lonesome Dove. Fourth, Saddle Ridge Boulevard at Lonesome Dove. Fifth is Saddle Ridge Boulevard, Huckleberry Street. Sixth is Open Range Road and Huckleberry Street. Seventh is Sundance Path and Open Range Road. Eighth is Saddle Ridge Boulevard and Huckleberry Street. The ninth is Butch Cassidy Street and Huckleberry Street. 10th is Butch Cassidy Street and Lonesome Dove. 11th, Saddle Ridge Boulevard, Lonesome Dove. 12th is Saddle Ridge Boulevard, Dock Holiday Drive. And the final 13th is Butch Cassidy Street and Dock Holiday Drive.
There's a map right after that with the indication of all the stop signs and the streets in those two phases.
Matt, off the top of your head, what's the timeline for completion of phases 2, 3, 4, and 5?
Those, I think I just saw something today on 2 and 5. Yeah, we just saw something today where they answered the engineer's questions. So now it goes back to them for that secondary review.
Yeah.
So
I mean, my follow-up question is, right, we accept these, right, they got a year. Where, this heavy construction equipment getting through, they're coming through right now by the Best Western. What phase is that? Can't even read what that is. Sundance Path, the one there that runs along to the, I guess that's the west of, the west of the retention pond. So, you're gonna be driving in these big heavy pieces of construction, the kits for these homes, right? A year from now, they're still coming up, tearing up those streets. We're gonna be on the hook to be fixing them.
I don't disagree with you. I don't know what the answer is to that. At some point in the review, the engineers will see and say, you've now triggered that second entrance street. It needs to be constructed. Maybe then the council says, maybe there's a legal way we can tell them, you need to now use that street for your, I don't know if we can force them to use the new street for the heavy trucks on that, or if we can, it's just like any other street they would drive down. I don't know.
Oh, but you can have Public Works go out there and look prior to the
Yes.
expiration of the maintenance bond
Yeah.
and notify them that they need to fix
Yes.
this or extend their maintenance bond because they're still under construction on other phases.
That's exactly what their engineer said. They said typically what they'll do, and we'll have to mark in our calendars, is about 2 to 3 weeks out from the expiration of the 1 year mark, is we meet with them, all of our powers to be, their people, and go look at all the roads and mark everything up, so that way they can either be fixed, or I guess now we can
You can
force
extend
them to
it,
extend it another year.
you can extend it, usually 6 months,
Oh,
for them to complete the site improvements to the other parts of, or come up with another way for them in and out, to not damage the roads that are already about to be finally accepted by the city.
Molly, is that something that would need to come into council?
Yes, it'll need to come back because, unless you give him the authority to negotiate with the developer on the maintenance bond situation, it's just gonna depend on the authority you delegate to.
Probably wouldn't do it at least a month prior, so that gives us 2 meetings to be able to come back to the council if we need to ask the council for something. So Scott, if you can help us out with that, I'll start tracking it.
And my recommendation would be for, city administrator to go ahead and get them to submit their surety bonds and the end date so that you have the actual bond now and can calendar it going forward instead of trying to find it.
I've got I know what the dates are. They sent me those, but they didn't send me copies of the actual bonds, but I'll get copies of those.
Molly, what's stopping us from amending this ordinance for the duration of the project? Because I know some of these projects are gonna take 3-4 years, to be completed. So are we able to do that? And then this ordinance for
The next phases, yes.
for the next phase or even future developments that come out here? Because I think in the past, the way I read that ordinance is from 1978. I think things have changed as far as subdivisions being constructed.
So you're talking about the guarantee of performance? Yes, we can update that.
Yeah, it needs to be at the
But
2022.
the developer that developed under this is gonna be
Yeah.
under this.
Well,
So, but for future ones,
For
definitely.
future ones, yeah.
Yes.
So Molly, this ordinance in the sense of doing modifications, this would just be strictly for Saddle Ridge. So we would do one for Saddle Ridge, one for Lytle Farms.
One for Rosewood.
And this is just phase 1 and 6 in South Ridge.
And
The
we
next
can-
phases come back again, or we modify
We
this.
can amend this ordinance to add phases, but you would want to keep them separate. And then eventually, when you update your city map, you pull these and you have the engineers update your city map. So if you'll read the ordinance caption, and if council's in agreement with the locations, the street names, and the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit as recommended by the police department, and if you'll read the ordinance caption, someone, if they're so inclined, can make the motion on that ordinance caption.
I can read it. Y'all want me to read it?
Council?
Until I can motion to it?
Good.
I'll read it. It says an ordinance adopting Saddle Ridge Ranch Phase 1 and 6 streets as city streets, ordering the speed limit on Saddle Ridge Ranch Phase 1 and 6 streets in the city of Lytle be fixed at 25 miles per hour, adding and adopting streets to the city map, authorizing and adopting the location of installed stop signs and the setting of stop signs to be installed, finding that fixing the speed limit and authorizing the speed limit and stop sign is in the best interest of the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the city of Lytle and its inhabitants, declaring a public purpose, incorporating recitals, providing for severability, providing a repealer, providing a penalty, requiring publication and setting an effective date.
I'll make that motion.
A motion on the floor?
Repeat it.
I have to repeat.
What was the motion on?
I got it right there.
Just say motion as, make the motion as stated.
Yeah, David.
Okay. Got a motion on the floor, as stated. Okay, got a second? Any further discussion?
Paul, you said there was a couple of amendments that you were gonna make to that.
We can just notate, when the performance, when the city, engineer approved Public Works inspected city, release the performance bond, and that a maintenance bond is still continuing on these streets. So that's why I would like the date, so we can, subject to that amendment, approve the ordinance. Thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries forward. All right, go ahead and show at 8:15. Let's go ahead and take a 2-minute break. Thank you. There we go.
You never have to reach.
Oh, man.
There's hands up
Okay.
there.
Let's go ahead and, Paula, if you can actually show us back, 8:30. Little extra on that one, good. Go ahead and take care of the next. Okay, council, let's go ahead and continue. Next one that we actually had was, consider and act upon the proposed hourly pay increase for animal control department employee Melinda Close. Tati, come on up.
Just, like, giving her, thought to raise, she completed her basic animal control and certified and also her utilization. The dollar raise is for basic and 50 cents is for her utilization. And that's what we've gotten in the past when we've, completed those two certificates. We both got a dollar increase and then 50 cents for utilization check.
So how much are you picking up?
She's making 12 something right now, so let's put her at 13. We get 13, 16 or something like that. And, yeah, she's good, she's doing good, so.
Council?
I move that we give her a pay increase to $1.50.
Okay, got a motion on the floor? You got a second? Okay.
I
Any
don't know if I got
discussion?
her certificates too, I don't know if I got a copy of that.
Can you send this to me for payroll record and give me a date you want that effective at?
Okay.
Should be today, right there.
Yeah, it would be
Effective
effective
today.
today.
Today?
Yeah,
If I go ahead and amend the motion.
Okay. So, Zach, you want to go ahead and
Yeah.
go with the amendment?
Yeah.
So I got a motion second, discussion. Any questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, there you go, Santi. Make sure, yeah, and for our HR records too, make sure that we get them, so we can go ahead and come on file for the certification.
Oh, yes, they all have everything already, I can give it to Paula.
Okay, good. Okay, I consider and act upon a proposed hourly pay increase for police department officer and deputy fire marshal, David.
Okay, so David, back before Christmas, he completed his fire inspector state exam. It's 160-hour course with about 16-hour hands-on, and I didn't give him any kind of salary increase things. I was waiting for him to get the arson portion, which he recently passed that exam. I think he took May 6th. Again, that's a 150-hour course with 8 hours online. Each of those requires an extensive, it's hard, right, Matt? It's a hard test.
They're not even.
It's hard. So they passed those, and he'll be licensed now. This is part of this is our fire marshal function the police department performs. We started this 2009. Matt and I were the two guys that went off to school. But then 5 years later, in our plan, we started, developing, trying to bring people in. I had a guy started, and he went to the military full time. So we're trying to get kick-started because, Matt and I'm eligible to retire. Matt's be eligible in October. And he's down here now, but he's still got his license and everything, we can use. But we've got to find people, we've got to build that core so we don't just leave the city hanging. Now, I originally proposed on there, you'll see $1, of course, it brought to my attention, to deal with Santi and her get $1.50 for 2 classes. It takes about 3 or 4 days. So I'd like to amend that to request $1.50, which is probably still lower than it ought to be, but I think we have money in the budget, and again, we basically trained him almost for another career field. David's been with the city almost 10 years. Well, no, I take that back. I'm sorry. He's been with the police department almost 10 years. He started here at Public Works when he was 18. I think he'll be here for a long time. And part of the reason he's going to be here for a long time is because we invest in our employees and we develop them. And if you don't believe me, there's a great guy there that's now the city administrator, There's Paula over there.
Don't kiss him now.
There's Paula, she worked for me for 9 years, she's wonderful. And then even Santi, I hired Santi. I'm a leadership machine. That's what I am. If I could lose weight, I'd have the whole world in my hands.
So there's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday lunch already.
I'm just trying to
Give me
figure out
one
who
more,
else.
Richie, one more so you can have a whole
I'm
week
trying to
covered.
get somebody, you know, James, I got him, but he just gave up too long. I can't do much with him.
Give you a bell.
Yeah.
Mayor, isn't there a time limit on people speaking?
Okay.
No, I have a question. What is his current hourly salary?
It's around, you know, I don't actually have that in front of me. It is about $22 or something, I believe. 22 something, I believe.
Give me like $24.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be, I think a hair more, that'd be about, I don't actually have that in front of me. But I looked at it with all our pay scales and everything, and that's, you know, what we, you know, that's kind of where we need to be with him on this.
So I'll make that motion that we give him $1.50.
Got a motion on the floor for $1.50, Mr. Lopez. Second, and we want to make it effective immediately.
Well, if we could, if we're with ours, our new pay period starts on Thursday, so it'll be a lot easier for bookkeeping if you just make it effective. Our new work period starts on Thursday. So that would make it probably easier for Matt, right, for y'all down here. Whoever does.
I'll make it
The 16th, okay?
Yes, I sure appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank y'all so much for putting up.
So I was thinking, more along the lines of $2 an hour, right? That's why I was asking how much his
Well,
hourly
so,
salary is.
you know, I'll go ahead and speak in open session here, okay? And whether, the problem, the issue is that potentially, Officer Lopez, if Matt stays down here, then I will need some more, I'll have to promote another supervisor. So we will, and he's the most senior person, he has his advanced peace officer, he's qualified for, he's qualified, meets his qualifications, so I'll probably be addressing it at another time. Obviously, I'm not gonna, you know, turn down any money for the officers, because it's not about me, it's about the people that work for me.
Well, you told David I want to get more money, and you told him no.
Well, I don't want to do that, but you'll have an option, sir. But, I'm sorry.
Any other further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed?
Huh?
Okay. Appreciate it, Council. Thank you.
Well, yes,
All right. Here you go, man. M, consider an act upon setting the observance of city holiday leave for true holidays to occur on non-working calendar days. We can get a background on this one.
Did we also said that? I was like, I thought. Juneteenth is coming up. So we need to decide when the city wants to observe it. But to fix all of these where holidays fall on non-working days of the city, a Saturday or Sunday, we worded it this way. So I looked up how the federal holidays fall, and the way they work is if it falls on a Saturday, they observe the holiday on the Friday. If it falls on a Sunday, they observe it on a Monday. So it'd be my recommendation that we follow the exact same schedule. So if that way we just settle right now. City holiday falls on the Saturday, it's observed on the Friday. If it falls on a Sunday, we observe it on.
I thought that was already set in stone.
No,
No, sir.
unfortunately, we had mix and matches, where that created a problem was, like in the police department, the city would take Monday as would take Friday as a holiday. Well, then Monday, when we're trying to do stuff with all the courts and everyone else, they're all on holiday. So like what Matt said really makes it, in our line of work, it makes it a lot easier, for us to function if we can, you know.
We would observe the exact same days that all the other organizations. That way, we're not open trying to get to the bank and they're closed because they observe it on the day that federal people.
And this is just the holidays
that fall on those non-working.
The weekends.
Days.
Basically.
Is that Juneteenth? Is that already scheduled in a sense?
No, we didn't have that on the schedule. That's why this got brought up. But
Charles actually had an agenda item, and it was approved that we observe.
yes, this is an approved city holiday. It's just, we did not know where it was gonna be observed officially for the city. In working with our attorneys, we worded it to fix all the holidays for this fiscal year. That way we know from here on out, if we have another one that falls, this is when it gets observed. Not every time this happens, we come to council.
So Juneteenth, we're observing it on the 20th.
It falls on a Sunday? So we'd observe it on that Monday.
So next Monday.
guess, whatever, yeah, I don't even know what day it is, but.
Yes, well, it's 5 U.S. Code subsection 6103, which talks about that's a federal law.
Yeah.
That sets all that, and it goes into detail in there, talking about if it's observed Saturday, take Friday off,
Yeah.
Sunday, Monday, so. That's probably where I got it from.
Yeah, yes, sir,
Go
sure.
Into it more in depth,
So we just,
whatever that was, a year and a half.
yeah,
So next Monday.
but the motion would be for us to observe
Yes, this is for. the-
non-working holidays on the same date as the approved federal holidays, which is what Charles just mentioned, that code.
Mayor, I move that we observe the non-working, holidays. If the holiday falls on a Saturday, we observe it, Friday. If it falls on a Sunday, we observe it on Monday.
Got a motion on the floor?
Second.
Second. Okay. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks, man. Nope.
We got cut off on that day. It's not a holiday in our books.
On the.
Juneteenth isn't. When we read meters the next day, we got cut off that day.
The 20th is cut off.
You just have to move.
Yeah, we just have to, I mean, it's,
I mean, it's not even scheduled on our yearly report. We got all our holidays marked. Juneteenth is not on there.
Well, Charlie.
yeah, Juneteenth is a city holiday, it just wasn't marked on our calendars then.
Well, we didn't know when we were gonna observe it, but Charlie would pass.
We didn't know when we were gonna observe it.
So let's do this, let's get together tomorrow, let's iron that out, because I know there's another thing in here that we're gonna talk about too, that's gonna tie into this, but yeah, we definitely need to help James out. So, we'll get to.
See, we got meter reading the next day and you got us cut off during meter reading.
Hang on,
Keep us in a bind.
hang on.
Keep in mind, we'll come back to it. Okay, let's go ahead and press on and consider an act upon the request for street light installation at 15516 Main Street. That was Mrs. Martinez.
Yeah, this is a request, they asked that we add a street light down there.
Mayor, I move that we install a street light at 15516 Main Street on Highway 132.
Okay, got a motion on the floor?
I'll second.
Second? Okay. Appreciate it. Further discussion?
So, I was looking at the poles in that area, they look like they're behind the property. What type of street light are we talking about?
No, I'll give the CPS, that's their power provider down there, and it's whatever CPS is using.
So the city would agree to install the light on the power pole?
Yeah, it would go on the utility pole, and then we get billed monthly for it.
Okay, and it's, from what I saw, it looks like it's behind the property. For some reason, right there where the, I don't know, some kind of, there's a bunch of tractors and everything. It starts there and it goes behind the properties and then comes back after.
No, that might be a personal pole then taking utilities to the house.
I didn't see no.
The poles would be, there may not be a pole right in front of the house for this on, I don't know, I have to go down there and look at it. Because CPS is not gonna place the utility pole
This is,
typically on private property, it's probably one on the east.
this is before the creek, right?
Right.
Yeah, right before the creek on the left.
So I see it where they go behind the property and then when the creek comes back, like that's the creek going southbound, it comes back.
So Matt, it might be good to talk to Melissa, because I know Melissa's working on a project that goes from the creek out to Baby Huey's. All that area where they're actually relocating or putting utility poles in front of the houses. It's not a lot, I think it's maybe 3 of them. They'll light that whole section based on the type of light that they're not using. But it might be good to take a look at it. Okay?
So I think it would be a good idea to give, find out where she expects the light to be placed.
And we can look at
Based
this,
on the addition of the poles.
on the Google Maps, I don't see that there's utility poles out there.
Right. And then too, we have that traffic light coming up in front of Coleman. So is there gonna be additional work?
So the light in front of coal mine, that's supposed to be AEP. Is that
Yeah,
correct,
right,
Sam?
right. There's two lights on 132 that I requested they put on, and they're near coal mine. One is in front from my exit, one is, almost next to, Cortez.
That would be a traffic signal or something like
There's a light there already, but they haven't fixed it.
street light or shit, so. Okay.
I'll
So
work
all
with,
that's gonna be looked into.
I'll work with CPS, and if we can get this accomplished, great. If they say we gotta do something else, I can bring it back with you.
Just be able to add it to it. Hopefully they can add it to the study. Okay, so we got a motion and second for us to go ahead and approve the streetlight installation at 155116 Main Street. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Appreciate that. Some notes. Okay, consider an act on the adoption of city policy for delinquent water utility bills due to the current weather conditions.
So that is something that Virginia asked that we add. She asked if there was a way that we could not shut people off for water, just due to the high heat that we have right now. So like that, we have some people who can't afford to pay or that don't pay their water bill. If we could have something that says we're still gonna assess the fees, we're not gonna, for late fees and all that, and then, go from there, but that we not physically disconnect them from the water system. This was,
So what Virginia and I were talking about was to be able to extend the cutoff time, to say, instead of the cutoff time being the 20th, let's extend it to the 30th. But they would still have, their delinquent fees, it's just they would not get cut off. There's been a lot of residents coming through that, they talk, and of course, everybody knows everybody, and they're having, financial problems with the economy and everything right now. And the last thing Virginia was saying is these poor people may get their water cut off in 106-degree weather. And she's looking a way to remedy that, maybe giving them extra time before the cutoff, where we're not gonna cut them off on the 20th, say give them 10 more days, to like the 30th.
So I think it was three things. It was allowing them for the extension with the cutoff.
Yes.
Giving you guys the opportunity to deal with it on a case-by-case basis of how to be able to get paid back, right?
We were gonna look at it on a case by case, but mostly just saying, okay, we're gonna give somebody 10 extra days. If they got into a worse situation, then it would be a case by case basis that we would bring it either to Matt and the council.
And then the third one is we were gonna put a date of when we would stop doing that.
yes,
Yeah.
because otherwise we want it, just like we did during the winter storm or where, or COVID, where people just didn't pay because they knew I could not pay them, you're not gonna make those stuff.
Right.
I don't like staff making the case-by-case basis decision, because that could be, I don't want somebody to come back and, well, you chose me, but not them. If we're gonna do something, I think it comes back to council. If we wanna do a case-by-case, that needs to come back to council. I don't wanna put that on staff, because I don't want somebody coming in and saying,
And I
you
say we
chose
just
me.
give them a 10-day, like, if they can't do it, do a 10 flat day. That includes the delinquent fee, but then there's.
Maybe for everybody across the board?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That'd be for everybody across the board?
No, just for people that couldn't pay because.
I'm
there's-
saying that, but.
Yeah,
one has to come-
but yeah.
One person comes in.
Give them an extra 10 days to pay, that usually gives you enough to get another.
Some people saying case by case would be.
No, I don't want
I
case
think we're,
across the board.
yeah, I think we're gonna take the case by case basis out, give them the 10-day extra to pay, that'll be the 30th at the end of the month. And then, we'll address it then, and then they either have to do cutoff or whatever, or we can,
Did you guys discuss what was the end period that you were shooting for?
end period.
Yeah, at the end of
September.
October.
We get our first full time for October, but,
October 31st.
yeah, I'm issuing them. It's being due. And we're talking, we said 2 to 3 months of this, but I think that's kind of pushing it.
How many people are currently cut off?
Our cutoff list is probably about, 11 right now? Is that the one we said?
What about those people who didn't turn their water back on? or-
Oh, you talk.
Yeah, like currently cut off because they
No.
don't have
James,
water.
how many do we have currently cut off?
We got them all back on.
Yeah.
They're all
everybody's
back on right
on.
Yeah.
we're just trying to work with people, most of the elderly, the ones that are really hurting because they, they're telling us they can't even pay their food bill or their gas bill, and the last thing they want is to be 106 degrees and they don't have water at their house.
I don't know about our church, the electrical bill's twice as much what it was, and my house, the electrical bill's twice what it was, so I know people.
I agree the bills
People
are,
are
I just
struggling.
want,
Mine was too.
I want a
But then again, I
specific
don't want
dates.
people taking advantage of the situation, so that was my other part of it. Where, and then all of a sudden, in the end of 3 months, we've got a stack of bills that we're gonna have to, to try to remedy.
My bill was twice, we called TXU, I have, and they knocked off $55. I'm good.
So you're looking at the end of September then?
We're gonna do it like 3 months, I said 2 to 3 months, whatever the council will agree.
And this September gets us through the hottest part of the summer. And it looks like it's gonna be a hot summer this year.
Okay. Council, you hear what they're asking?
I'm not gonna work until, 10 days.
Certainly, they're gonna do it. Would they have an
Okay.
extension?
So we're gonna give them an additional 10 days to pay their bill, but we're not gonna shut anybody off or do cutoffs until the end of September. I just wanna make sure we understand this is staff. You tell me how we wanna do this.
No, we're gonna, the extension time of this, people that need extra is only gonna go till September, and then we're gonna go back and cut off on the 20th, just like normal. This opportunity to have that extra 10 days to be able to work through your bills is only gonna last from here to there. But they have to pay by the 30th, and they have to pay that delinquent fee, or we do cut off.
So what you're saying is, just for clarification, what you're saying is at the 20th of the calendar date of the month, if they can't pay, we will give them 10 extra days, which will bring it down to the 30th, and then on the 30th, if they don't pay, then you cut them off at that point.
Right, that's what's the thought.
And we will only do that until the end of September.
Until the end of September, after the heat wave is over.
So if you don't pay, you can still get cut off in this timeframe.
Yeah, but it'll be after the 30th.
Make sure I
It
know
just
what
gives them a longer opportunity to pay their debt. James.
You gotta remember, we're on a 30% cutback on water. We're in drought, so
I've got information on
it's supposed to be cut back.
I know some information on that too. I called Edwards today.
Which stage, I guess, yeah, the stage you're going to affect, I guess.
About a week.
If we don't rain, we're not getting rain.
So, answer this question. My utility bill has gas, garbage collection, and water. Are we saying that there are customers that just get a water bill? Because if you're gonna be behind, you're gonna be behind on your gas.
Well, it's gonna be all bills.
Right,
Yeah, it's all in one.
right. So we're talking about your utility billing from the city of Life.
Right.
Okay.
I'm
I just don't want
sorry.
to
I
say,
keep saying water, which
Yes.
is more than heat.
okay.
But,
That makes sense.
also, I don't want somebody that's 90 years old and is diabetic and everything else and have their electricity turned off where they can't have air conditioning at 106 degrees.
Right.
Now, we don't control their electricity. That's,
Right.
yeah,
It would just
that's
be
totally
I
different
mean,
from us.
yeah.
utility
Water.
We got
Yeah,
gas.
sorry, yeah.
bill by the city.
Okay, so I need the councilman to go ahead and make a motion based on what we talked about talking about it.
Is that on the total bill?
On the total bill.
Okay.
Just give them 10 extra days to pay their on the
Okay,
total bill.
I think I'm in my total bill.
So Bill, 10 extra days, and we're gonna do this, we're gonna allow this to happen until the end of September. So that's yours. Who was the second?
We didn't have one yet.
We haven't had one yet. Okay, second, okay. We have a second. Okay, discussion. Any further discussion on that?
When is this going to affect?
She wanted the immediately because cutoff is on the 20th. So she wanted it before next week, just in case people are having problems. Thoughts?
I don't want people to die.
Okay, you want to amend it?
Yeah,
Amend it effective immediately?
yes.
Okay,
Second amended.
okay. Thanks, Joe. Okay. Any further discussion? All All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Pete, consider and act upon the eligibility requirements for annual citizenship award.
Basically the same, thing I handed out a couple months ago, when we were talking about this. I think really what we needed to, iron out was like deadlines and, the council making their nomination. Nomination for the committee, excuse me.
We had, Joseph, which one did you nominate? Was it Mr. Palmer? Or you? Jeffrey?
Jeffrey Farmer for the youth category, yes. And I've seen other cities too, they have like different categories and they don't necessarily have an applicant for that year, so they just. We don't get anybody. I need to worry about it, but, I spoke with, Ward Sanders, earlier this afternoon, and he said he would serve on the committee. Okay, but I also told him that it's in there somewhere, it's, the terms of service on that committee would run concurrently with their respective council members' term of office. Residents are gonna have an opportunity to submit applications. And then based off those applications that we receive, the committee will then decide on that in, November and inform the council who they're recommending. And we'll present those in December like we did.
Were we the ones selecting them in the past?
Yeah, we were the ones selecting people in the past. All, the whole town, especially I think if the city grows, it's gonna be harder to know everyone. There might be somebody on the other side of town that's deserving.
True. Finding every day to know less and less people.
Yeah, I don't recognize anybody in this group.
Kind of,
So October nominations, November, the group will make selection, and then December we recognize, basically. Yes, sir. Okay. And then, in great break at the library.
I mean, we do that or we can't. I mean, I think it's, one brick. You know, I got a bunch of bricks laying around. I'll donate them to the city, the nice bricks. Canned bricks.
Do we have a place where you be? Yeah.
Where the picnic table is, we have bricks there. They're $35 a brick right now. And the only thing is it's only 3 lines, so they can only put like, congratulations. It depends on how long the name, some people like to put a lot of information on there, and I always have to tell them, you only have 3 lines, and you gotta remember, there's only 14 characters per line, so that's what that company allows.
how many blank bricks do you have?
Oh, quite a few,
Okay.
yeah, probably close to 300 or more.
Oh, we're good.
Yes, we'll see your bricks anymore.
Don't need my bricks, good. I was gonna make a little patio. That's 75 years if we got, you know, a selection every year.
Get his brick.
Carry on.
Awesome.
Mayor, I make the motion to accept the eligibility requirements for annual citizenship award.
Okay. A motion on the floor, go ahead and accept.
Second.
Okay, got a second. Any further discussion?
I guess the matter is, when are we as council going to, get our district representatives or nominees to serve on this committee?
I think we need to, can we appoint them at the next meeting, make it an agenda item, everybody bring the name. to appoint the person you want on that
So
committee?
we got, Alderman Emery is still out, so maybe we should see, you still have the first meeting in July, right?
I do. I will be out actually the next meeting, but I already have mine out. I could just email it to Matt or whoever you do.
Okay. Well, we shoot for the first meeting in July.
Nominees need to be in the district, right?
Yes.
Preferably, again, I mean,
I was wondering, because I nominated Philip before somebody else in that. Philip Devaney.
Yeah, we're gonna need to look at all those groups too. Go back and look at them. We actually replaced some, but we gotta relook at it. It's on the list. Okay, appreciate that.
we vote.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
We need a vote.
Yeah, but any other discussion? Anything else on there? Anything that pops up? We're good? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, appreciate that. Thanks, Charles, on that. All right. Q, consider and act upon scheduling dates for budget workshops. All right.
So we need to start moving on this, working with Linda. I mean, there's a lot of work with Linda. You know, I say me, but I'm gonna be working with her. Just some different numbers to keep out in your head. If the city looks at adopting a tax rate that exceeds that voter approval rate, the last day for us to file a proposed budget is July 16th. If we, of course, that's always kind of the red section, right? We never want to go there typically, is what I've heard. On the green side, if we adopt a tax rate that doesn't exceed that voter approval rate, then our last day to file a proposed budget is August 29th. It looks like July 25th, it says the appraiser must deliver the certified values. So that's coming up next month. If we need to adopt something that exceeds that voter approval rate, we need to get going now, kind of on this. So it'd be my recommendation that we maybe set something for this month to start a discussion. So that way, Lynette and I say, but really Lynette, we can start putting some numbers together and looking at budgets. We've got a lot of big ticket items coming up.
So I don't want to do it, I don't want to increase tax, but we do need to sit down and have a very candid discussion about some stuff. And so we need to come up with a timeframe and what Matt said to be able to meet those deadlines on time.
But is that the no, like, new debt bill? I mean, are we looking to?
Yes,
We
we got, yeah.
obligation?
Yeah.
So if we get that in September, right, that's what we're talking about, how is that gonna impact us passing that? Are we gonna be able to say pending this, or how's that work?
That's what we'll have to talk with people that understand it a lot more than me.
The main thing that we need to do right now is we need to be able to get all of our inputs from our departments, what they want to do, what they're looking at, look at our list of projects. You know, we were talking about drainage a little while ago, different things that we need to put out there. Put everything together and say, this is what we need, compare it to the numbers that we are able to operate and make a determination, okay? Can we absorb it based on how we're operating in the tax if it stays without the voter approval? Or do we need to go after the voter approval because the costs are so much?
So I already have everything that Ruben's talked about, so it's whenever y'all are ready to sit down and go through it.
Have we gotten all the department heads inputs already?
Yep.
Yep, so
So
we need to.
to meet.
Yeah, we need, when it comes to anything with the numbers and stuff being evaluated, they're up to date.
So if we had to do the first one, if you need to get with the department heads, how much time so we could go ahead and schedule at least one of the workshops for the dates?
They're gonna pass, we used to have them like every week.
Well, we just start later on typically. Yeah, we're trying to get started earlier, so if there's something we need to do, we've got some time to do it
So
still.
last year, we started in May.
Yeah.
We started in May. This year, we did a little bit different because we had to take care of the audit, and then we had to take care of the infrastructure, trying to figure out a few things. So now we're at a point to be able to do that, so, I want to make sure that they get a chance to get with the department heads, but it's, because you said July, I'm just gonna go ahead and say, worst case, we need to go ahead and do something with taxes. So if we had to do that, we had to make a decision by July
July 16th, if we have to exceed that quota, is the last day for us to file a
That's a
proposed budget.
It's a Saturday?
Whatever that falls out.
Did we get the numbers from them, what it's gonna be?
No, not yet.
Certificates obligation, 8.5 million, what's?
You mean the payment?
Yeah, what's the
Yeah.
payment gonna be?
Yeah, the payment's gonna, well, it depends on the interest rate right now, but we're looking probably about 700,000.
Like yearly payment.
Yeah, but I've been crunching numbers. So we've got July 16th and the actual budget adoption on August 29th, so I've got to do something in between those 2 dates.
What's our current taxable value, you know,
We don't have certified values yet.
we're gonna get those next month?
Yeah, July. They're working on
We're
it.
just
Yeah,
not
they still
starting
got, they got, protests,
Yep.
probably everybody in the budget protest.
We did have to do some refunds based on protests too.
But if we can do our internal workings between now and when we get their certified rate, we can at least know what everybody's looking at and what everybody wants. And then we can build what we can do.
I'm gonna throw some dates out there. On a Wednesday, just because we have a holiday and we got another meeting, or any date, but I'm looking at the 29th of June and the 6th of July. That would give, if we had the 2 workshops in there, then that would give our staff a whole week to go ahead and put the stuff together. If we had to meet one more time, we would give it a chance to meet, but it also would give them a week to go ahead and do the finalized, whatever we need to do tweaking.
I won't be here 6th of July, but I shouldn't be.
Let's do the department
But I'll be-
heads on the 29th if possible.
You want to do the 29th?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that okay?
I can do whatever.
Yeah, when are we gonna,
June 29th or July?
June.
June 29th.
6:30?
I guess we can talk more. We have a department head meeting Wednesday. We can work
Yes.
on, okay. That'd be a good time.
We're gonna have some additional conversation.
Gotcha. Sounds good.
And you want to put a tentative of the 6th of July?
Yeah. Or almost 45.
That works for me.
Council?
That's the first, workshop. Will it be the first workshop?
The first workshop would be the 29th of June, and the second one would be the 6th of July,
What time on the 29th, 6 o'clock?
6:30, same time, council meeting,
July 6th.
July, the 6th of July, 6:30.
I'll be here still.
Okay. Good. Bill? Good? Sam? Joseph? Department heads? You guys okay? Okay. So let's put those as our bullies right now. Just go ahead and shoot for that. Try to take care of those. Okay, council, I need a motion for us to adopt those 2 days.
Mayor, I move that we conduct a budget workshop on June 29th at 6:30 PM and another budget workshop on July 6th at 6:30.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Thanks so much. Okay. Consider an act on the resolution of adopting rules of procedure governing city council meetings. I think, should have a handout on that. Take care of that one. Okay. The background on this one is basically for us to put some things in place just to kind of help us out. And in the past, we talked about doing some of these things, and we did put part of this, but this is a little bit more structured, has a little bit better understanding of what we needed to do. I appreciate our attorneys actually helping us out, like being able to take care of this. Just to highlight some of the things that are in there, you can take a look at it. Some of the things to highlight. And we were just talking about the workshops. So on this one, this version that we actually have, it talks about workshops and things to take into consideration and notices. In page 2, it talks about the city council agenda. It gives us an opportunity for us to actually have a way to be able to kind of work the agenda items on there. So in the first paragraph is basically just saying that we get our agenda items in for consideration or be able to be added. That would be 4 working days. So that would be on a Tuesday. Then on a Wednesday, that would be the time that the mayor, the city administrator, and city secretary would go ahead and work on putting it together. On Thursday, we would have our city attorneys actually get a chance to go ahead and review the agenda and see if we need to make any changes or anything. And then on Friday would be the last review, and we would actually get posted. And it would be the same thing as lining up, with us getting on the website. So that's one of the major changes on this, of us being able to do that. So instead of submitting on Friday, the submissions would actually be on Tuesday on there. On the next page, on page 3, on the right for members to be heard, it identifies how to be able to, in case we have some sort of debate, how to be able to grant some sort of attention on there. I know we have open comments in here. We kind of talk, and I think we can continue to do that. And when it gets busier and we have a lot, we definitely need to make sure that we actually have people asking or be acknowledged, and then being able to give them a chance to be able to speak in that instead of going back and forth. So this kind of gives a little bit more structure, being able to do that. The preservation of order on number 3, it also requires us not to use cell phones during the city council meeting unless the council feels like we need to do some research. So then we would go ahead and use the phone to go ahead and review information. On E, consideration on agenda items. One of the things that we started doing on here is that the citizens are signing up, right? They actually sign up, so that one actually gives them a chance to go ahead and sign up and make any comments. So we kind of have an idea of the folks that need to do that.
On that, would that be at the beginning of the meeting at the designated time frame?
Yes, sir.
Or would that be per item?
So when you walk in, we would have sign-in sheets up there. One is just sign in under citizen, and just say, I want to be under citizens to be heard, or I'm here to speak on an agenda item, and they could write A, B, C, whatever. And then we would have to gather that once the meeting started to get it to council or to the mayor to say, hey, these people are here to talk on these specific agenda items, or.
Right, so the question was, would that be during the designated time frame at the beginning?
Yes, only, once the meeting has started, that sheet gets collected and presented to the mayor.
And page 4 talks about folks not being able to vote and being able to mention those things. From the appearance of the citizens once again may sign a sheet available in council chambers, is available at 30 minutes prior. So it gives them a chance, they have an idea of what they need to do. How much time they get, the 3 minutes, pretty much highlighted on the following paragraphs on there. And then on page 5 on there, it talks about the approval of the minutes. Minutes of the meeting generally submitted to for approval no later than 2 regular meetings after council meetings. So it gives the flexibility in case we can't do it for one, we have the flexibility of being able to do that. Our attorneys helped us out with this. This is stuff that you've used, Molly, with other communities to be able to operate, be able to do that. So this is us being able to kind of put something together that would help us not only before, but during the council meetings to be effective and efficient, being able to take care of that. Is there anything we need to add?
The citizen comment is a good one because it allows them to sign up, and then you have a list up there of what they want to comment on, you can ask them if they want to be heard during citizens' comments or wait till the agenda item. That's actually a council preference. You can let them all speak at the beginning. Say what they want to say about the further down agenda items at citizens' comments rather than stopping and letting them speak at every item. You do have to let them speak either all at the beginning. If you don't have a citizens' comments, then they get to speak on each agenda item. And of course, if there's somebody that's gonna give input and council wants to hear from them, you can acknowledge them and let them speak. An engineer, an attorney, or a developer that's here on the item, obviously you can let them speak. But a citizen coming to voice their opinion about the item that doesn't have a bearing on the item as far as presentation is concerned, can all be done at the beginning. It saves time.
You know, previously, the council had agreed to adopt a variation of Robert's Rules of Order to govern these council meetings. And we had said we would set a workshop, and that workshop never got set. Why, I don't know. But also I know that some of these items in this rules of procedure governing city council meetings, they're set by ordinance. So we'd have to go back in and amend our ordinances in order to put these into effect. So, I mean, honestly, I like it, because like the mayor said, especially as the city grows, and that was the point that I brought up 5 months ago, was that we'd seen in some other cities, like I think you're familiar with Coteau and how some of their meetings were being conducted, that became a little unmuted. So we were trying to nip that in the bud, right, before it became an issue here. Yeah, I know we just got it today. I'd like a little more time to review this. We'll come back next meeting, even though I'm not going to be here, I'm going to be out of town. I can send some recommendations over to Molly, the mayor, Matt, or whoever. I think it needs a little more tweaking before we act on it tonight. Like I said, we have some ordinances in place, and I can't be contradicting our own laws.
Right, so if you have those council ordinances already in place, then this would amend them, so we would need to pass an ordinance in order to amend an ordinance, because you have to use like versus like resolution, ordinance. So if you wanted to tweak this and pass it to amend the current ordinances, also like you said, if you already adopted a form of Robert's rules, not specifically, we're just using Robert's rules, but the way you're going to use them, we can incorporate that into this, because some cities have that in this, their Robert's rules that they're going to use. And that can all be done in one ordinance and repeal all prior ordinances. But we would need to do that with the council ordinance if you already have one of these adopted as far as ordinances are concerned. If there's not an ordinance on the books that governs your council meetings.
There's just guidance in a sense, but in a sense of specifically like this, we don't. And we did talk about it before about doing the Robert rules and a few things, but we never acted on it.
We do have an ordinance, mayor said in the meeting time today.
Yes, that's correct. So
certain things we didn't need to, like I said, tweak that.
So I think that y'all have an end time on your meetings for ordinance, at least I saw it in the code of ordinances. That's not in here. Things of that nature that if you're still gonna continue on, obviously with this at fourth Monday, at the time and this location, all that's in here, but if there's something in the ordinance that we would need to incorporate into this, that can certainly be done.
Or would you have to wait for their later date to do it?
If you don't have an ordinance already that's a rules of procedure governing your meeting, then you don't. You can pass this as a council policy. You can adopt it as an ordinance as well. We would bring it back as an ordinance on the next meeting, but you can set it as a policy of council right now. If it's not conflicting with an ordinance that you already have. If you have an actual ordinance, you can only amend that with another ordinance.
David, have a chance to review this yet, Honor? He's gonna be back in July.
Yep. we have enough members here for us to go ahead and move out.
I was gonna say that, Mayor, I just want to give them the opportunity to go out and make their. I make a motion that we table this item until the first meeting in July, first regular scheduled meeting in July.
I'll second it.
Okay, got a motion for us to go ahead and table,
To
Table this until the first regular scheduled meeting in July.
first meeting in July.
Yes, ma'am.
got a motion, got a second for us to do this, got a discussion?
For David to read it, and has to
Yeah,
roll it over.
yeah, at 9:30, I've been up for 17 hours at this point, and give a little time to take it all in.
Okay. No further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Vote.
Okay. We have a tie. I will have the opportunity to go ahead and make an input on this, and I will go ahead and accept. I'll put in favor of us adopting these rules of procedure.
Well, the
Hold on,
motion
hold on,
was,
yeah, I
the
think the
motion was
motion,
to table it.
Table, yes, we
So
can
are
only-
you for or against table?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Another motion?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let me take that back.
so we can only, yeah,
Yeah, so the motion is for us to go ahead and table it, and I will side with the folks for us to go ahead and not table it.
Mayor, I make a motion that we adopt the rules of procedure governing the city council as proposed.
Okay, got a motion for us to adopt? Second that. Got a second for us to go ahead and adopt? All those in favor? Any opposed?
Mayor, we can't adopt rules of procedure that go in conflict with each other.
From what I understood is we could take a look at it and make changes.
But those changes haven't been made.
No, but that would be an ordinance that would be brought up to us at a later point.
That ordinance has not been brought up yet. You talk about the process, right, the correct way to be doing things. If that's what you want to do, by all means, let's do it, but let's do it correctly. Is the city attorney's advice to go against our currently established ordinance?
No, the ordinance would stay in place as far as your dates and your times of your meetings and everything in that ordinance, because this would not, you can't change an ordinance without an ordinance. So you'd be adopting everything in this that is not conflicting with your ordinance.
And then we would bring the ordinances at a later point.
Correct.
What of the items that are received, looking at this agenda, right, let's have a little discussion on this. We're saying that we're gonna put a deadline of 4 working days prior to the public posting, right? What happens with an item comes in at the end of the week? That was the whole intent of extending the deadline to Friday at 10 a.m. When I got back from a vacation this past week, it was brought to my attention at the end of the week that there was something that a citizen wants to have on the agenda. So we're going to deny people the opportunity to add those last minute items and wait.
We would have the opportunity, once again, if we have things that need to be incorporated, it would be incorporated in Tuesday, it would be submitted. That is,
And items that arose Friday morning would be off the table.
it would be off the table. That is
Denying urgent matters that need to be addressed, okay?
Wasn't there an ordinance that you got 72 hours? Request, take care of the agenda?
So also keep in mind that every time that we amend the agenda, it's gotta be sent back to mom. And then it goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So it's not just as easy as Paul getting that and just putting it on.
I mean, then again, we talk about amending ordinances, right? By ordinance, the city secretary sets the agenda. Not our city attorneys. So if we're gonna be amending our ordinances, then we need to do it about the correct way, and not just haphazardly. No, there have been multiple times since I've been on the council that there have been more than 3 items that I've added on the agenda, and they've all been important. So now we're hamstringing ourselves to conduct parking business for the city. I mean, that's how the council wants to be run, and by all means, let's run it that way.
No, I mean, I even remember Joseph sending stuff back to Mr. King, having to approved at the last minute, and having Ruben approved at the last minute. What I'm trying not to do is to have Paula here on Friday till 8 o'clock pulling her hair out.
But she can't be here until Friday because by state law, it has to be posted 72 hours before the meeting.
Right.
I can say this Friday, we were working till just about the last minute to get the agenda out. I understand, I'm just saying, I know, I'm just saying, there's a lot of moving parts. It's a lot more than just, here, put this on the agenda, that's all I'm saying.
To bring up some examples, so Molly, with other communities, we'll go first, you raise your hand. Talk about it.
Just to clarify, the city attorney did not set the agenda. The city attorney should not be pulling items off, putting items on an agenda ever, unless it's something that we have not completed, an ordinance we have not finished drafting, a subdivision that we have not finished reviewing, something legal is not complete for your consideration. But as far as the item, you could leave it and we can tell you, this is not complete, we didn't get it done. As far as setting the items on the agenda, we just review for content and compliance with the Open Meetings Act. And then also any documents that would need to come with it. Like, don't give me an ordinance on Friday morning and expect me to finish it for you by 5 o'clock to have it in your packet. That's unreasonable. I'm sorry, it just is. But also, it's not fair to your staff to give them things that they didn't know they needed to have for you on Monday at 6:30, on Friday by 10. Typically, most cities will have a deadline of Tuesday for items, then staff can prepare them, make sure they're ready. We get the agenda on Thursday. It's ready to go Friday morning. If there's something emergency that comes up, that's different. But if these are items that should have been to the city secretary by Tuesday, that's not unreasonable. I mean, you've got 2 weeks in between each meeting typically to get your head around what you want on the next meeting. Of things that come up, if there's an emergency, yes, by all means, don't leave it off. But also, if it's not something that can be completed in a timely manner, I'm not gonna do shoddy work because we didn't have enough time to get it done.
So
I will work through the weekend to get something done for you. However, I also ask that you respect the time of your staff as well as our staff.
So what we're asking here is what other communities are already doing. What is the city of Bernie's submittal time for agenda items?
Bernie, I think theirs is probably a week prior. I don't know what it is anymore. I don't work there anymore.
What's the average on, like Tuesdays?
Usually it's a Tuesday deadline for a Friday posting.
What about
I
emergency items?
know some cities do it Tuesday before the Tuesday, so they give their staff 2 weeks to work on the next agenda. It just depends on how busy, this is a large agenda. I mean, it's not the longest ever, but it's a lot of content. Y'all have a lot of very important items that need to be handled correctly and not last minute. So that's all I'm saying.
When was this submitted to us? When was this rules of procedure submitted to the council?
I printed it today and it was submitted today when y'all got here, yes. That's when it was finalized. It was finalized over the weekend when I got back.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, that's my whole point, like, we're not getting this either. This was not something that anybody on this council put on there. We haven't been given a chance to review. Has anyone else looked at this, other than the mayor? As long as it's there.
So I looked into our code of ordinances real quick, and it looks like under meetings, under the just general tab here, amended, I think this is 4/12/21, it just sets the meeting times, second and fourth Mondays, and they shall promptly adjourn at 10 p.m. And if anything's not accomplished, then it's moved to the next meeting, and of course, follow Open Meetings Act, stuff like that. That's it. There's nothing else in there.
In regards to urgent items, I would like to state that the city of Lilo, the citizens have 2 meetings per month, as opposed to just doing once a month. I can understand once a month. If you want to try to get something in before the end of the month, or before a month goes by, but with 2 meetings, like the Molly said, if it's urgent enough or important enough, it can be put in. So
So then we're gonna have to really constitute on what's emergency.
that would be the second part.
That's gonna be the second, yeah.
But what I'm getting at is the fact that we are holding 2 of these meetings a month. So that should be ample time for a citizen to give a voice, their opinion or request this and that.
Even that was one of Josie's complaints, was last minute stuff coming in, her having to change the agenda, send it back to Tom for approval to come back.
Right.
That was very frustrating for her as well.
Joseph complained about everything.
So, last comment, and then we'll go ahead and, since we already have a motion in a second on this.
One final comment is, if we pass this, there's a lot of work, not just on me, but the additional staff, but preparing documentation you need and us doing research to give our recommendations or the background on it. If we can't know all this until Friday, I mean, we're working all the way through the weekend to get ready, and that's everything. I know it's what we get paid for. We all signed up for it. But if we know by Tuesday, Wednesday-ish, hey, this should be, we can start on a lot of that. Then by
And
that
then
day
you
we
can
can
give
get
them
done.
their packet on
Yes.
Friday, and they have the weekend to review it and not get something Monday morning.
Yes.
This was not given to us Monday morning. It was given to us whenever we arrived.
I agree. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, for everyone's sake, right, what we're trying to do is run the city efficiently. So yes, having agenda items in a timely manner, right, is gonna be beneficial to all. But at the same time, hey, look, I don't like showing up and reviewing stuff while I'm sitting there. I wanna review it over the weekend. I don't want you working over the weekend, So.
I think we're all on the same page, just whether we want to do it.
We're in the same book,
Yeah.
we're not in the same page.
Although I still want to do this, Charles, and remember, this was her first time prepping one as well. So there was a lot of change going on in the offices last 2 weeks, so just.
Oh, yes, I'm well aware of that, but, at the same time, like I said, we haven't been given an opportunity to review this.
I
Okay, let's go ahead and move on. We got a motion up first. We got a second motion on there. We had a discussion already. All those in favor for us to go ahead and adopt the rules and procedure for governing our city council meetings? Okay. All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Tie again. I will go ahead and break the tie, and we will go ahead and adopt the rules and procedure governing council meetings. Thank you, council. Okay, that's consider an act upon designating city personnel as signatories on city bank accounts and authorized users of city-issued credit cards.
I'll let Lynette take the lead on this one.
So currently, it is just Paula and I that can sign checks. Paula is running away from me in about 2 weeks. And she will not be here to sign checks. And I would like to have at least, Ruben can sign checks. I'm sorry, it's also. If, I would like to get Matt on as a signature as well, so I don't have to go and chase Ruben down. And if possible, maybe even another signature.
So right now, if I'm not mistaken, we have the mayor pro temp, we have the city secretary, we have the assistant city secretary, and the finance director, correct?
Correct. I have the 5 on there.
So those, we already passed, we already agreed that those would be the positions. So
Yeah, because I just want to sign, but two,
On the CDs.
You did the
On
CDs.
Yes, on the CDs.
There's the CDs. So those are the, and we said that we're gonna stick to positions, so then we don't need to worry about individually. So we'd be able to do that. So Lynette, what you're asking for is to add the city administrator to that list?
I would like to add Matt to the list, and my deal is Matt's running around like a chicken with his head cut off right now, and I don't see him very much. He's taking care of a bunch of stuff out. That I can arrange checks between Matt and Ruben if I need to, but if Paula is out, then I have to chase people down. So it's however y'all feel comfortable. I would really like to have 4 signers, just as a,
We have 5 minutes.
we have 5. We have Sam, you, myself,
You don't
and
have
Paula.
a system.
Yeah,
We
right
don't
now.
have an assistant.
But in essence, the request we have,
So
so
that's-
staff.
Yeah, that's.
It would be nice to have three on staff at all times,
Absolutely.
because it's a double signature, check.
So I think let's just stick to the position. So basically, we're just saying we want to add.
Yeah, add that.
Okay. So can I get a motion for us to go ahead and add? Okay, got a motion for us to add the city administrator.
So name the 5 positions again in the motion. Okay, got it. So I'll have to be in the meeting.
So currently we have the mayor pro temp, the city secretary, the assistant city secretary, and the finance director. What we're doing,
I'm not very pro-tem.
I know, but position wise.
Yeah.
Those are the ones. And what we need to add is gonna be so we're gonna have a total of 6. So you're gonna have the city administrator. Okay, so we're adding. Okay, got a motion for us to go ahead and add the city administrator? Do I have a second?
You got it. I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Anything else for clarification on here? It's bank accounts, and we also talked about users for the city issued credit cards.
So we can finish this as one item and still go to the credit cards in the same agenda item, correct?
You can make them separately.
Yeah, so let's just do them separate since we've already got this one.
Okay, any further discussion on that? All those in favor for us to add the city administrator to our bank accounts?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Get that one approved. Okay. Now let's talk about the city issued credit cards. Who has them right now? And who would you like to add?
Right now, we have, Chief Richie, we have, James.
James, do you physically have your card though?
James never uses it.
But we physically have his card somewhere. We've seen it.
I have not seen it. Where is your card? Do you have it in your wallet?
No, I don't carry it. I never got it. I never touched it.
Good answer.
Cassandra has one, and Santiago has one. And now, and Paula has, Josie's, cards. They're in the.
Okay. So who do you need to add?
I think Matthew's one. Everybody else needs to stay the same.
Which, so 1, 2, 3.
So the department heads,
4.
Yeah, the department heads need one.
to include the city secretary's position, correct?
Well, as long as one of you have
Yeah,
one.
we need one in City Hall. Because currently, right now, I've got to go buy equipment, I gotta go call Chief and borrow his credit card.
Which violates policy.
Yeah, and we gotta go get gifts, so we're trying to get one back in City Hall.
But I don't trust that.
5. We have 5 right now, right?
So we could stay 5 and just have, again, remove Josie from, add the city secretary, just call it position, not person. We have to name person for the card, but.
Okay. So,
I say Paula, I'd say all the department heads.
so what
With
we
the
need to do
exception
for
of myself.
so based on what we're looking at and who has cards right now, you're asking for us
The
to
addition of Paula.
call it.
And Matt.
No, as long as we've got one in City Hall,
I
we're
would
good.
say one.
So you don't want one?
If we've got one in the city, for Paula, she can do what she needs to do.
So council, I need a motion for us to go ahead and authorize Paula to go ahead.
With fuel cards,
I'm working through field card, that's
separate.
That's
separate, yeah.
We'll come back to that one. Yeah, we'll definitely have another.
I'm working on those, James.
And, okay, so we're gonna ask, can I get a motion for us to go ahead and include Paula to go ahead and get her card?
I'll make that motion.
A motion? Okay, got a second? Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Credit card. Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Does that help on that? We good?
Yeah,
With that
as long
agenda?
as we have somebody here that can, get toilet paper or paper or stuff that we buy on the card. A lot of stuff I do can visit like that.
Now, how about the Sam's cards? That's gonna be the same?
No, that's, I'm glad
We're
you're
gonna
on
do that later,
No,
or-
no, I'm glad you're on that up. So we also have a Sam's card. What else do we have?
Sam, most of the same.
We have,
It's a Sam's credit card.
It's a
So
Sam's
really, it's a
credit
credit card.
Okay, so
Can we,
the agenda item is pretty broad, it says authorized users of city issued credit cards.
That's what it
Accounts.
can we update the Sam's card, which is a credit card as well? And then it's-
Okay, so,
so as far as I know, I think Santi has a Sam's card.
I have
You
one.
have one. You don't. I know you don't. And then Josie had one. So we need to make Josie's card out of the 3 that we had, the 4 that we have.
I just,
You have one, I know, that's 3 or 4.
where's the third one you're putting, pointing
No, Sandra.
Oh, okay, out of the 3 cards, we just need to, we'll cancel Josie's card and get, Isla a new card.
James doesn't need one? Need a Sam's card?
Oh, yes.
He wants the Home Depot.
Okay, now, do you really need a card, or Cassandra?
Probably so, because I do get cleaning supplies for our, thing.
We used to go twice a year.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we want to go, right now is the time, so do we want our department heads to have a Sam's card then?
And Matt, you don't want a credit card or a Sam's card?
If we've got it here in the city, I can get to it. I don't necessarily have to be the guy that buys everything, but we'll figure it out.
So James and Cassandra, okay. So we're looking at Paula, James, and Cassandra. The Sam's card, right? Okay, so cancel. Can I get a motion for us to go ahead and have all 3 of them get a Sam's card? Okay, got a motion? Second? Okay, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Go ahead.
Okay. Any other credit cards?
Nothing I'm aware of. I read mine.
All right, here we go. Let's move on. T, consider and act upon options to renew city employees TML health, dental, and vision plan.
So we discovered this and, spoke to TML. We have to make a decision by July, 1st. So our current plan is what you'll see in this first sheet. I'll cover this, but talk about health insurance. If we keep our current plan, it is an 18% increase in cost to the city. But that keeps our current plan. Doesn't cost our employees anything else. In my recommendation, that's the plan we should go with. But I will tell you, there are 4 other options the city can choose from that reduces that increase to the city overall from 13.38% to as low as a 6.12% increase to the city. However, all of those other options cost the employee, it's more out of pocket to the employee and stuff like that. We don't want to go backwards on benefits. So it'd be my opinion that we stick with the current city plan on the medical benefits. Then when we talk about dental, we have dental 3. So I would say we keep the same there. Their rates are the same of what we're paying currently. And then on the vision, we have the premium vision. So I think we keep the same. So across the board, we just stay exactly the same on our health benefits that the city offers and pays for the city employees.
Okay. Council, we get a motion for us to go ahead and keep the current plan so we actually have, just like Amanda talked about. I'll make that motion. A motion, keep them there. Okay, have a second?
Is that what y'all want?
Yes, sir. I'm very passionate. My wife, for the first time, is ever on YouTube tonight. I have 5 dependents on insurance. And what keeps me here is having good insurance. If we started going back, then, it's going to hurt us recruiting. I commend y'all. If that's a decision you made, thank you for taking care of your employees.
Okay, a second.
Got a second.
I put it up on the screen.
I think I got it.
So the employee does not make any payments?
No,
sir.
100% covered for the
And,
employee.
well, Mr. Rodriguez, in the municipal,
Co-pay or
Yeah.
whatever.
well, in the municipal world, most all cities pay the employee. Now, like the schools, the school pays you pay a portion, but most all cities, the employees is paid for. Now, I pay my dependent coverage, and with this increase, it'll probably cost me about $1,300 a month to have my family on there, but at least my family's gonna be taken care of.